Chapter 49:11. Lin Yi was purely relying on his beastly instincts to fight. Otherwise, even if an ordinary cultivator was controlling the lightning dragon mummy, Lin Yi reckoned that it would be difficult for him to find an opportunity to attack. After all, the difference in strength between them was just too great. It's fortunate that this is the case. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to hold on for so long. You wouldn't have been able to hold on until I used the octagonal spirit capture. The ghostly thing chuckled. Then, another powerful aura descended on the origin soul of the vengeful specter's head. It said coldly, "Behave yourself, or you will die. Behave, behave." The origin soul of the vengeful specter was unable to move and did not dare to resist. "Tell me, why did you attack us?" the ghostly thing asked in a deep voice. "Eat, eat." The origin soul of the vengeful specter stammered. Lin Yi was stunned. He immediately asked with his divine sense, "You want to eat my primordial spirit?" "Yes. I want to eat every time I come in," the origin soul of the vengeful specter admitted. "Hee, you're a foodie." Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. He finally understood that the lightning burial city was the nest of the origin soul of the vengeful specter. No matter who broke into the city, be it a lightning-type spiritual beast or a human cultivator, they were all food for the origin soul of the vengeful specter. If it could not eat continuously, the origin soul of the vengeful specter would continue to weaken and eventually die. "Alright, now that everything is clear, it's up to you to decide whether to kill it or not," the ghostly thing said indifferently. "You want me to decide?" Lin Yi was stunned. He looked at the trembling origin soul of the vengeful specter and shook his head. "There's no benefit in killing it. It might even cause some changes." "Kid, you're quite thoughtful." The ghostly being chuckled in agreement. "However, your concerns aren't completely unreasonable. Even though this thing has low intelligence, it's still the ruler of Thunder Burial City. It's hard to say if there'll be a chain reaction if it's destroyed." "That's right. But I can't let it go that easily. It hit me so many times, I'm almost burnt to a crisp. I should at least pay some medical fees," Lin Yi said with a playful smile on his lips. "Medical fees? What is it?" the vengeful spirit Yuan Shen suddenly asked. "Hehe, this guy is quite curious." Lin Yi couldn't help but smile. When he first found out about the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, his heart was filled with fear. He was even helpless against this ghostly thing. After that, he was struck by lightning like a stray dog. But now that he had completely subdued the vengeful spirit primordial spirit, his impression of the vengeful spirit primordial spirit was completely different. Not only was he not afraid, he even felt that the vengeful spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit primordial spirit was quite interesting. At this time, because the ghostly thing was no longer deliberately suppressing it, although the vengeful spirit was much weaker than before, its state could finally be stabilized, and it maintained the appearance of a lightning dragon. According to what the ghostly thing had said, this fellow's original primordial spirit was most likely a thunder dragon. Only such an extremely powerful being could leave behind a primordial spirit that could devour the primordial spirits of other thunder attribute spirit beasts after its death, and thus develop step by step to its current astonishing stage. "Medical fees. I'll pay for the medical fees." The vengeful spirit seemed to have understood something. It pointed in all directions and stammered, "These are all for you, oh?" Lin Yi glanced around and instantly choked. His expression was extremely interesting. At this moment, he finally had a chance to take a good look at the legendary Thunder Burial City. At this moment, without the dense fog of the vengeful spirit, he could see everything clearly. In the beginning, Lin Yi had expected that even if the ground wasn't filled with Shen cultivating grass, he would at least be able to find Shen cultivating grass easily. In the end, after taking a look around, his heart instantly sank to the bottom. This place was a barren wasteland. There wasn't even a single blade of grass to be seen, let alone mystic raising grass. All he could see were white bones. The so-called Thunder Burial City was just a beautified name. In Lin Yi's eyes, it was more appropriate to call this place a mass grave. "You're saying that you're giving these bones to me as medical fees?" Lin Yi looked at the vengeful spirit, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. "Yes. I haven't finished eating them." The vengeful spirit quickly replied. This meant that there were still some spirit remnants left on the bones. It didn't absorb all of them, so it naturally handed them over. To it, these were probably the most precious things. To a certain extent, this vengeful spirit was actually quite generous. Unfortunately, Lin Yi really didn't have the fortune to enjoy such generosity. If there were some powerful thunder attribute spiritual beasts that had just died, they would still be of some value to him. However, perhaps because of the thunder burial, most of the corpses in front of him had already turned into white bones. They wouldn't be of much use to refine pills or forge weapons. They were only of little value. Lin Yi casually took some of the corpses of top-notch thunder attribute spiritual beasts such as thunder dragons and lightning eagles. After all, he didn't need to put in any effort. With a single thought, he could put them into the space in the jade pendant. Even if they were of little value, it was better than returning empty-handed. Sigh, I've made a wasted trip. Lin Yi sighed helplessly. He didn't even see a trace of the profound nurturing grass. Instead, he was struck by the vengeful spirit for nothing. He was really suffering. Kid, you should be content. Let's not talk about other things. The power of thunder in your body has improved by leaps and bounds. It's far better than 10 years of hard work. This kind of benefit isn't any worse than the profound nurturing grass. On the contrary, I've really suffered a great loss this time. I didn't gain anything at all. Instead, I suffered a great loss for nothing. The ghost thing smiled bitterly. Senior, since this fellow can grow stronger by devouring other thunder attribute spiritual beasts' primordial spirits, you should be able to too, right? Lin Yi suddenly had an idea. I can, but do you think my brain is flooded with water? The ghost thing curled its lips disapprovingly. What do you mean? Lin Yi was confused. If I devour other primordial spirits wantonly, of course, I can grow as fast as it. I can even devour it in one gulp. However, at that time, I won't be me anymore. I'll be the next stupid vengeful spirit. Do you understand? The ghost thing was speechless. That's serious. Lin Yi was slightly shocked. In his understanding, primordial spirits were the same as vital energy. They were also a type of energy. Since it was energy, it could naturally be replenished in the most direct way. He didn't expect this result. Chapter 49:12. That's not worth it. Rather than that, it's better to slowly nurture it myself. Lin Yi nodded and left Thunder Burial City. It wasn't until he climbed up the cliff that the ghost completely let go of the vengeful spirit. It spoke in a meaningful tone, consider this a good deed. Who knows, it might come in handy in the future. Huh? Lin Yi couldn't help but ask, you can only enter this place once, and you won't have the chance to come again. Why would it come in handy? Hihi, I've heard a rumor from Lei Long. I don't know if it's true or not, but this Thunder Plain Island isn't as simple as it looks. Let's talk about it in the future. I'm going into seclusion now, so don't bother me if there's nothing important. All right. Lin Yi shook his head helplessly and didn't pursue the matter. He left in high spirits and returned in low spirits. He hadn't even seen a trace of the Xian nurturing grass after so long. He was a little dispirited, and he was exhausted. He wasn't in the mood for it. He smiled bitterly as he looked at his tattered clothes. Lin Yi treated his wounds and changed into a clean set of clothes. He then began to search for Xinyan and the others. They should be looking for the Xian nurturing grass. If he was lucky, they might have already found it. However, before he could go far, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. A moment later, he saw the figure of a somewhat familiar woman in the distance, stumbling in his direction. Lin Yi took a closer look and was shocked when he saw the figure. It was Enrich Sayu. Although she was wearing a veil, it was easy to tell from her clothes and temperament that it was Enrich Sayu. Didn't this girl leave? Why did she come back? Enrich Sayu had been running and crawling along the way. Her flustered appearance didn't match the third fairy at all. She was overjoyed when she saw Lin Yi. She quickly yelled, "Help, young hero. Someone's trying to rob me." Lin Yi paused as he saw a figure approaching Enrich Sayu from behind. It was a ferocious-looking man in black, holding a long and a short machete in his hands. It was a strange sight. Although Enrich was stumbling, she was still a Mystic Ascension early stage master. Her running speed was also extremely fast. In a few breaths, she had already reached Lin Yi's side and hid behind him without saying a word. At the same time, the man in black quickly caught up. He didn't even look at Lin Yi and stared at Enrich fiercely. "Little girl, where's Brother Chang? Why isn't he back yet? Why are you fine? Hurry up and let me search your body to see if there's anything you shouldn't have on you. Only then can you prove your innocence," the man in black said as he put away the machete in his hand. He reached out to touch Enrich body. From beginning to end, he didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes. It was as if Lin Yi was air in his eyes. He didn't even have the qualifications to look at him. Lin Yi had seen many arrogant geniuses, but it was rare to see someone as arrogant as him. "Young hero, save me. Young hero, save me." Enrich was very clever. She dodged back and forth behind Lin Yi. She simply stopped running and used Lin Yi as a shield. Where did this blind boy come from? "Get out of my way." The black-clothed man finally opened his mouth and cursed. With a twist of his wrist, the curved blade flashed, and he pressed it against Lin Yi's chest with lightning speed. "I'll count to 3, or you die." Lin Yi looked at the black-clothed man calmly. He didn't want to stick his nose into other people's business. After all, he had only met Enrich once, and they weren't friends at all. He didn't want to be someone's shield for no reason. He wasn't a fool who couldn't move his legs at the sight of a beautiful woman. However, now that the man's machete was on his chest, it was unrealistic for him to stay out of it. Moreover, Enrich was quite likable. Lin Yi wouldn't completely leave her in the lurch. "Let's talk." "What's the matter?" Lin Yi said immediately. "Oh, you're quite arrogant. Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like this?" After the man in black was stunned, he suddenly showed his fierceness and said with a murderous look, "1, 2, 3. As soon as the voice fell, the man in black raised his hand without hesitation and was about to slash at Lin Yi. As a result, Enrich, who was hiding behind him, suddenly came out and quickly stopped him. "Don't slash. Don't slash. This has nothing to do with him." Lin Yi was about to cripple the man in black, but he couldn't help but smile when he heard this. It seemed that this chick, in addition to being a little silly, had a bit of loyalty. It was commendable that she didn't completely sell me at this time. Seeing Enrich blocking in front of him, the man in black suddenly put away his machete. He looked back and forth at Enrich and Lin Yi with a surprised face. He pinched his chin and sneered, "I was wondering why you, little girl, had to run here. It turns out that you have a lover. Tell me, did the two of you conspire to kill Brother Chang?" "Ah!" Enrich was shocked when she heard this. She turned her head and looked at the inexplicable Lin Yi. She suddenly reacted and waved at the man in black. "No, no, no. It's not me. I didn't want to kill him." "What did you say?" The man in black's eyes became sharp. "Ah, no. I mean, he shouldn't be dead yet." Enrich words became more and more outrageous. She didn't even finish 2 sentences before she spilled the beans. Lin Yi looked at this scene speechlessly. His forehead was full of cold sweat. He knew this chick's character and IQ. Otherwise, he would really think that she had ulterior motives to make him hate her. To be honest, Lin Yi had now begun to sincerely admire Enrich's master. Putting aside the fact that he betrothed this chick to Chang Liting, the fact that he was able to teach Enrich to become a profound ascending stage master showed that this master was definitely a master. If it was an ordinary person, he would have cried at Enrich's stupidity. How could he teach her to such an extent? He had misunderstood Enrich. In addition to being relatively simple, the main thing was that this chick had no experience in the martial world. So at critical times, she would appear to be stupid. It wasn't really a problem with her IQ. In terms of cultivation talent, Enrich was a first-class cultivation genius. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to advance to profound ascending stage at such a young age. Chapter 49:13. "No. I don't know if he's dead or not." Enrich was so scared that her face turned pale, and she said with a sobbing tone. Hearing this, Lin Yi was completely speechless. Enrich words were basically admitting that she had harmed Chang Liting. What was a pig teammate? This was a typical pig teammate. And then again, the other party was a profound ascension early stage master, and she herself was also a profound ascension early stage master. Even if her strength was not as good, she should not be afraid to this extent. Looking at Enrich flustered appearance, it was estimated that she had not fought at all. A dignified profound ascension early stage master, facing an opponent of the same level, did not even have the courage to make a move. To be more precise, she did not even have the thought of making a move. This was simply shocking. How did this kind of trash succeed in breaking through to the profound ascension stage? How could those who had spent their entire life's efforts only to stop at the Yuaniing Great Perfection stage feel? From this point of view, Enrich was really a strange person. At this moment, a man in grey quickly approached from afar and shouted, "Old Li, how is it?" The man in black named Old Li responded and pointed at Lin Yi with his machete. "Old Xiao, this girl and her lover seem to have conspired to kill Brother Chang. What should we do?" "What? Brother Chang was killed by them? This damned adulterous couple." Old Xiao's face suddenly changed. Chang Liting was not only a big brother to the two of them, but also a backer and protective umbrella in the academy. If Chang Liting really died, the two of them would not be in a good situation in the future. After all, they used to be tyrannical and offended a lot of people. They really deserved to die. "Old Xiao, you decide what we should do next, I'll listen to you." Old Li said immediately. "Of course, we will kill this adulterous couple to avenge Brother Chang." Old Xiao's eyes flashed with killing intent. "Good, 1 blade each. Grandpa will send you 2 on your way." Old Li grinned and was about to attack Lin Yi and Enrich. "Wait." Old Xiao suddenly reached out and stopped him. He stared at Enrich lecherously and said, "Don't say that I didn't give you a chance. As long as you know what's good for you, hand over all your good things, and obediently obey me, I can consider letting you live." "Ah, I." Enrich was frightened by his gaze that seemed to be able to see through her clothes. She quickly hid behind Lin Yi and pushed Lin Yi out. Seeing this, Lin Yi shook his head helplessly. It seemed that he had to take back his previous evaluation. This little girl Enai's loyalty only lasted for a short while, and then she turned around and sold him out again. "Humph, as for a pretty boy lover like you, if you want to live, it depends on what kind of heavenly treasure you can take out. If it's not good enough, heh." A cold light flashed in Old Xiao's eyes. His meaning was self-evident. If it's not good enough, Grandpa will shave off all the flesh on your body and let you taste the feeling of being dismembered by 1,000 cuts. Let me tell you, Grandpa hates pretty boys the most in my life. Old Li stared at Lin Yi cruelly. "Hehe, it seems that you have been hurt by love. What? Have you been robbed by a pretty boy?" Lin Yi did not pay attention to him at all and asked calmly, "What did you say? What did you, pretty boy, say?" Old Li suddenly lost control of his emotions and looked like he was about to go berserk on the spot. "You really have been hurt by love?" Lin Yi was a little surprised. Such a ferocious-looking man had been hurt by love, and it seemed that the hurt was quite deep. It was really unexpected that he was deeply in love. "I'm going to kill you. That damned pretty boy." Old Li was about to ruthlessly cut Lin Yi in half. His imposing manner was undeniable. Although he was not at the level of a 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert like Chang Liting, he was obviously a lot stronger than an ordinary profound ascending stage expert. No wonder he did not put Lin Yi in his eyes. However, before Lin Yi could make a move, Old Xiao, who was next to him, knocked away Old Li's scimitar with his foot. His strength was obviously stronger than Old Li. No wonder Old Li let him make the decision. "Calm down, let this pretty boy take out the thing first. It's not too late for you to kill him," Old Xiao shouted coldly. Only then did Old Li recover and fiercely put away his scimitar. "Hey, aren't your words insulting my intelligence?" Lin Yi looked at the two of them with black lines on his face. Who would take out the thing after saying this in front of him? Did these two really think that they had the same IQ as that little girl and I? Haha, I've already said it. Whether you can live or not depends on what kind of treasure you can take out. If you can satisfy us, You naturally won't die. Old Xiao sneered. After all, it's for the treasure. Lin Yi dragged out his words and smiled slightly, pretending to be profound. You two really found the right person. I really have a very good treasure with me. It's on me. Do you want it? Hey, pretty boy, you're tactful. Why don't you quickly hand it over? Old Xiao and old Li's eyes lit up when they heard this. They could not wait to urge him. Well, it's on me. Why don't you come and get it yourself? That's good, lest I take the opportunity to escape, isn't it? Lin Yi shrugged. The two of them looked at each other, and old Xiao immediately said with a smile, all right, seeing that you're so tactful, if the treasure is good, I'll be merciful and let you live. Old Li, search him. Okay, pretty boy, you'd better behave yourself. Stand still and don't move. Don't try to play any tricks. Otherwise, I'll dismember you. Old Li grinned and came over to search Lin Yi's body. However, as soon as his hand touched Lin Yi, his whole body suddenly froze and twitched crazily like a sieve. He could not say a word and just broke dancing on the spot. Old Li, what the hell are you doing? Quickly search him. Old Xiao, who was standing behind, did not understand the situation. He frowned and urged Old Li. Seeing that Old Li still did not respond at all, he immediately raised his hand and slapped Old Li impatiently. He scolded, you idiot, why are you so slow? However, before he could finish his words, Old Xiao himself also began to convulse crazily. His face suddenly revealed a look of horror, and he hurriedly launched his martial skill regardless of everything. At the same time, he exerted all his strength to kick Old Li away, and at the same time, he finally rescued himself from the predicament. Chapter 49:14. You, who the hell are you? Old Xiao stared at Lin Yi as if he was facing a formidable enemy. Although he was no longer convulsing from the electric shock, his whole body was still numb. If he had not clenched his teeth and held on, he would have already fallen to the ground. Didn't you just say that you are this girl's lover, little gigolo? Lin Yi faintly smiled. You are teasing me again. Enrich angrily jumped out from behind, but when she was glanced at by old Xiao, she immediately shrank back in fear. A dignified early-stage profound ascending expert only had this little bit of courage. It really made people speechless. Then why is there electricity on your body? Don't tell me you brought some divine weapon. Old Xiao's face was full of fear. He had just stretched out his hand to touch Old Li's shoulder, and the result was that there was immediately a fierce power of thunder and lightning entering his body. Although the intensity was not comparable to the thunder tribulation, it was already fatal to him. He was simply scared out of his wits. Fortunately, his reaction was fast enough to kick Old Li away, otherwise, he and Old Li would have become two electrocuted corpses. You guess. Lin Yi faintly smiled. That damn thing was in seclusion at this time, otherwise it would definitely jump out and sigh. You brat's shameless appearance is quite similar to my charm when I was young. Old Xiao heard this and almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and sneered, little gigolo, don't be too proud. I don't know what strange things you are hiding on your body, but as long as I don't touch your body, I think there will be no problem. I have at least 100 ways to kill people from a distance. Do you want to try them all? No, I don't have that much time, I am very busy. Lin Yi waved his hand again and again, with a troublesome expression. Reckless little gigolo, don't get too carried away. Old Owl was choked by Lin Yi and flew into a rage out of humiliation. Although he was Chang Leiting's follower in name, his true strength was not much worse than Chang Leiting's. It was just that he did not have any background. Otherwise, he would have been able to become one of the 4 young masters of the nascent soul stage. Now, he was the same as Chang Leiting, a rare 3-spirit profound ascending stage expert. No, I'm just telling the truth. I still have to find my companions. I really can't waste my time here with you. Lin Yi's tone was sincere. Old Li, hurry up and kill this gigolo. Old Owl was furious when he heard this, but he did not do it himself. Instead, he quietly took a step back, fearing that he would be electrocuted by Lin Yi again. Thus, he simply let Old Li, this brainless brute, take the lead. As soon as he finished speaking, Old Li immediately waved his long and short machete and rushed over. He already disliked the gigolo, not to mention that he had just suffered a big loss at the hands of Lin Yi. At this time, how could he think so much? He could not wait to immediately cut Lin Yi into 8 pieces. However, before he could rush to the front of Lin Yi, he saw Lin Yi standing in the same place and casually waved his hand. Immediately, a bucket-thick dark blue lightning instantly erupted from his palm and poured into Old Li's head. Old Li did not have the slightest chance to resist. His whole body was emitting black smoke and his legs collapsed on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Seeing this scene, Old Owl, who was already very afraid, almost peed his pants on the spot. His calves and stomach were trembling crazily. If it was not for his strength being far stronger than an ordinary early-stage profound ascending expert, he would not be able to stand at this time and would have been paralyzed on the ground. Even Enrich, who was hiding behind Lin Yi, was dumbfounded at this time. She looked back and forth between Lin Yi and the smoking Old Li as if she had seen a ghost. She could not say a word for a long time. Lin Yi did not take it seriously and clapped his hands. In his heart, he thought that he did not suffer so many lightning strikes in vain. Now, even if the power of his lightning strike was not as extraordinary as before, it was already comparable to a normal lightning tribulation. Using it to deal with an ordinary profound ascending expert, he could kill them with one strike. Only a strong person like Lung Rufan could barely contend with it. To be honest, Lin Yi had actually held back. This time, he only struck for a moment and then stopped. Otherwise, if the duration was a little longer, Old Li's whole body would have been charred alive by the lightning strike. As for that strike just now, it was purely the two people's fault. Lin Yi did not use lightning strike at all. Just the extra lightning power in his body had already charred them on the outside and tender on the inside. You, who the hell are you? You can actually trigger lightning tribulation? At this moment, Old Owl's face was pale. He was so scared that he retreated again and again. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. Yes, why can you trigger lightning tribulation? Enrich also followed and asked. Hearing this, Lin Yi was speechless and rolled his eyes. Which group was this little girl Ni from? She actually joined in the fun. Oh, you can't even see the power of lightning, and you still call it lightning tribulation? Lin Yi glanced at Old Owl, crossed his arms, and said lightly, I see that you still have a bit of cleverness. You should be able to understand the situation, right? If you have anything good on you, quickly take it out for me. If it can enter my eyes, I promise not to strike you to death. Ah! Old Owl suddenly wanted to cry but had no tears. It was obviously the two of them who went to rob others, but in the blink of an eye, it had fallen on his head. How could this be endured? What are? I'll say the ugly words first. I don't have much patience. You do as you see fit. As Lin Yi spoke, he expressionlessly waved his hand. Don't. Young hero, please spare my life. Old Owl was so scared that his soul almost flew out. He thought that he was about to follow in Old Li's footsteps. As a result, he shrank his neck and waited for a long time, only to find that nothing had happened. Only then did he embarrassedly smile. He did not dare to neglect and quickly fished out his things. As a result, this guy rummaged inside and out for a long time, and even rummaged out his belongings. In the end, he only fished out a pile of junk. There was nothing good at all. Young hero, I only have these on me. You see. Old Owl embarrassedly handed over a few elixirs with both hands. These were the best things he had on him, but they were only a few useless 6th-grade elixirs. Seeing this, Lin Yi could not help but be a little speechless. This was a living pauper. As a dignified early-stage mysterious ascending expert, he only had this little wealth. It was simply a pity. If Lin Yi was a little soft-hearted, he would have helped him instead. Looking at Lin Yi's strange expression, Old Owl could not help but blush. He also felt that this matter was really shameful, but there was really no other way. Not only him, but even Old Li, who was lying on the ground, was also the same. Both of them had some good things that had been plundered by Chang Lighting. After all, people under the eaves had to bow their heads. Chapter 49:15. Yes. Old Xiao hurriedly carried Old Li, who was smoking, and hurriedly ran faster than a rabbit, for fear that Lin Yi would suddenly change his mind. Lin Yi didn't even look at the two as he turned to Enrich Sayue, who was still hiding behind him. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They're long gone, why are you still hiding? Ah! Ran away? Enrich Sayue poked her head out to take a look. Sure enough, old Xiao and old Li were nowhere to be seen. She finally breathed a sigh of relief, patted her chest and said, "Great, we finally scared them away. These two people are as fierce as Chang Lighting." Lin Yi gave her another sidelong glance. He didn't know whether he should laugh or cry when he was with this Ni girl, but it was also a pleasant surprise at the same time. Every now and then, she'd do something that would make a man's nose bleed, and the main thing was that this girl didn't even know it. "Thank you for helping me, young hero. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble this time." Enrich Sayue thanked Lin Yi with lingering fear. Fortunately, she knew that Lin Yi was here. Otherwise, she wouldn't even have someone to ask for help. The consequences of falling into the hands of old Xiao and old Li would be unimaginable. "I say, what's the matter with you? Didn't I just help you get rid of Chang Lighting? How did you get caught up again?" Lin Yi asked with some speechlessness. "These two people are called old Xiao and old Li. They are with Chang Lighting. When they came in, they were with Chang Lighting. But I don't know why, when Chang Lighting came to chase me, he seemed to get rid of them." Enrich Sayue tilted her head and said, "This is normal. Chang Lighting covets your mysterious cultivation grass. Of course, the fewer people who know about this, the better. Isn't he giving them a share by bringing them to chase you?" Lin Yi curled his lips. Of course, it was also because Ni Xiaoyu didn't have much combat power, so she surrendered with a simple scare. Otherwise, Chang Lighting wouldn't have left these two helpers behind if the situation was more troublesome. "Ah, so that's how it is. I thought they were lost." Enrich Sayue had a look of sudden realization. "Apart from you, I believe that no one who can come here will get lost easily. You can rest assured about this." Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. "Is that so?" Enrich Sayue was stunned for a moment. She didn't realize that Lin Yi was teasing her. Instead, she nodded in agreement. Lin Yi shook his head speechlessly. This little chick Ni was really silly to a certain level. He could only continue to ask, "They chased you just because they met? Do you have a deep grudge against them? Otherwise, they wouldn't be so irreconcilable, right?" Enrich Sayue was the third fairy, and she was also Chang Lighting's cultivation partner in name. As Chang Lighting's followers, they shouldn't have attacked her rashly. After I met them, they didn't want to catch me at first. They only asked me where Chang Lighting went. In the end, I accidentally let it slip, and they found out about the mysterious cultivation grass. That's why they chased me like crazy. It's too scary." Enrich Sayue was still scared until now. Lin Yi simply didn't know what to say. This little chick Ni was indeed a natural lousy teammate. She could even let this kind of thing slip. She really deserved to be chased. But then again, like boss, like underlings. These two underlings of Chang Lighting were just like Chang Lighting. They were also profit-seeking perverts. Little chick Ni was indeed unlucky to meet these two. "Alright, they've been chased away anyways. You should be fine now, right? I'm leaving." Lin Yi looked at Enrich Sayue and was about to leave to find Wang Xinyan and the others. But before he could take a step, Enrich Sayue grabbed his sleeve and in a panic, she tripped her right foot and tore off a part of Lin Yi's sleeve. At the same time, she fell into Lin Yi's embrace. Don't go." Enrich Sayue's first reaction wasn't to push Lin Yi away. Instead, she looked at Lin Yi pitifully. Hey, don't tease me." Lin Yi could only look up at the sky. He couldn't help it. Little chick Ni was squeezed in front of his chest. If he looked down, he would easily see something he shouldn't see. But even so, Lin Yi still had the reaction of a normal man with a soft and fragrant body in his arms. After all, the girl's body was too hot, and he could only shrink back awkwardly. "Ah!" Enrich Sayue screamed and pushed Lin Yi away with a blushing face. "Nonsense. How can a girl tease a man like you? Who says girls can't tease men? There are female gangsters." Lin Yi shook his head and laughed. "Ah! Female gangster?" Enrich Sayue was stunned. She tilted her head and thought for a long time before she understood. I'm not a female gangster, not a female gangster. Then why did you tease me for no reason? You even tore off my sleeve. I just changed into a beggar's uniform. Lin Yi said helplessly. I didn't tease you. I just wanted to hold you. I didn't expect your sleeve to be so weak. Sayue pouted. She was the one who tripped herself. Why was she blaming my sleeve for being weak? Lin Yi didn't know what to say in the face of such strong logic. Forget it. Then why did you hold me? I'm afraid they'll come to catch me again. Can you send me back? Sayue said pitifully. Send you back? Lin Yi frowned. Not now. I haven't found my companions yet. Then I'll follow you. They won't dare to catch me. Sayue said. What? Lin Yi paused. He didn't have any other plans right now, and he'd leave after finding Xinyan and the others. Bringing that Ni girl with him wouldn't be a problem, so he nodded helplessly. Up to you then. Great. You're a good man. Sayue was overjoyed. A good man who hides his strength. Lin Yi looked at her. Yes. A good man who hides his strength. Sayue nodded. Lin Yi staggered, almost falling to the ground. Meeting a girl with a unique imagination like this. He really didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He'd saved her twice in a row, and now he was a good guy who hid his true nature. Did he really look like a bad guy to her? With Sayue tagging along, Lin Yi began to look for Wang Xinyan and the others. Of course, he also looked for Xian nurturing grass. Chapter 49:16. Lin Yi. Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's excited shouts came from afar, and Lin Yi turned his head to see the two girls pouncing at him without a care in the world. Lu Xiaozhong, on the other hand, was far behind them, unable to catch up at all. Xinyan, Xiaodao. Lin Yi went up to them excitedly, sighing inwardly. Thank goodness that thing was able to restrain the vengeful soul, or he'd be trapped in Lightning Burial City forever. He'd never be able to see his friends again. Are you all right? Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao examined Lin Yi from head to toe. There were some minor injuries on him, but they weren't serious. Only then did they relax. The name Thunder Burial was too frightening. They'd been worried about Lin Yi ever since they'd been separated from each other. I'm fine. Look, I'm fine. Lin Yi chuckled, not mentioning the vengeful soul at all. He didn't want the two girls to worry for nothing. Hey, Miss Ni, why are you back? Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao looked at each other in surprise when they noticed Sayue's presence. Wow, Master Lin, you really are a dragon among men. You've managed to hook up with the third goddess in such a short amount of time. Lu Xiaozhong's words made Sayue blush. No. He didn't hook up with me. It's me. Sayue waved her hands frantically. Then you're the one who hooked up with Master Lin? Lu Xiaozhong slapped his thigh in realization. Heh, no wonder you two got together so quickly. There's a saying that when a girl hooks up with a guy, there's a thin veil between them. Ah, what do you mean by a thin veil? I didn't. Sayue blushed. Her face was veiled, but even her ears were red. Then Master Lin did it. Lu Xiaozhong's gossipy soul was burning. He looked back and forth between Lin Yi and Sayue, trying to get to the bottom of it. Shoo. What are you talking about? Lin Yi's head started to throb. This Ni girl's pig teammate trait was really quite troublesome. There was clearly nothing wrong with her, but anyone would think that there was something fishy going on with her messy answers. Even Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao had a mischievous look in their eyes. Wouldn't the rice be cooked if they kept guessing blindly? That's right, there's nothing between us. I didn't stab him, and he didn't stab me. Sayue angrily defended herself. Holy shit. Upon hearing this, Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of blood. What do you mean by the more I explain, the worse it gets? This is called the more I explain, the worse it gets. Shut up, I'll say it. Lin Yi really couldn't stand everyone's meaningful gazes, so he had to personally explain. This chick was chased by two of Chang Leiting's lackeys and fled back to this place to ask for help. She happened to meet me, so I helped her out. After that, She didn't dare to leave alone, so she followed me. That's right, that's why we didn't stab each other. Enrich Sayue's pig teammate Halo was everywhere, and Lin Yi could only stare at the sky, speechless. Fortunately, everyone understood what had happened, and they looked at each other, not sure if they should laugh or cry. Alright, did you get anything from this trip? Wang Xinyan changed the topic in time. She knew that there was nothing between the two, but she couldn't let Enrich Sayue continue, or the rice would really be cooked. No, there's only a mass grave. There's not even a single weed, let alone Xian grass. Lin Yi shook his head with a bitter smile and asked, how about you guys? We didn't find any Xian grasses, but at least we found some valuable herbs. It's better than nothing. Wang Xinyan and the others shook their heads. At the end of the day, Enrich Sayue was the only one in the group who found Xian grasses. They didn't know if they should say that the girl was extremely lucky, or that she was a fool with a fool's luck. It wasn't an outcome they were willing to accept, but there was nothing they could do about it. This was how rare treasures worked, and only the fated could get them. Otherwise, it wouldn't matter how strong one was. If that's the case, then there's no need to force it. Let's go back. Lin Yi decided. There was still some time before the 1-month deadline, and he could still try his luck if he didn't want to, but the chances were slim. Staying here would be a waste of time. All right. Wang Xinyan and the others, naturally, didn't have any objections. You went down to the lightning grave? Isn't there no Xian grasses down there? Didn't they say that there were Xian grasses everywhere? Enrich Sayue finally realized what was going on and asked Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at her helplessly. He understood now that the rumor that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass was just a rumor. The person who spread the rumor probably hadn't even been to the basin before. They thought that there would be more Xian cultivating grass in the area, but it was just a beautiful misunderstanding. Lin Yi looked at Lin Yi helplessly. He knew that the Thunder Burial Ground had Xian cultivating grass. Is there or isn't there? Enrich Sayue asked. There's your sister. Lin Yi rolled his eyes at her. Huh? I don't have a sister. Enrich Sayue was stunned for a moment, then she blushed and said, don't tell me you're talking about my part. Young hero. You're teasing me again. What are you talking about? Lin Yi looked at her, confused. He didn't understand what Enrich Sayue was talking about, but he understood when he saw her nervously covering her lower body. He glared at her, speechless. I'm going to fuck your sister. You really are a pervert. Enrich Sayue took a few steps back and pointed at Lin Yi angrily. She looked like she was going to turn around and run at any moment. You're the pervert. Your whole family are perverts. Lin Yi was so mad at the girl. They were both human, but how could she be so imaginative? My whole family isn't perverts. Enrich Sayue stuck her neck out and thought about it for a while. She quickly added, I'm not a pervert either. Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao, on the other hand, couldn't help but chuckle at the scene. Lin Yi, who'd always been calm and collected, was losing his mind over and over again in front of this stupid Enrich Sayue. Lin Yi was speechless. He slapped his forehead and said, I'm such a cheapskate. Why am I arguing with a silly girl like you? I'm not a silly girl, my name is Enrich Sayue. Enrich Sayue clarified with a serious face. Chapter 49:17. How can you be a silly girl? Enrich Sayue stared at him blankly, and suddenly exclaimed, so you are a girl, I thought you were a man, your disguise is so good, there is no flaw at all. Shit. Lin Yi was speechless, and Xinyan and the others were rocking back and forth with laughter. Lu Xiaozhong was on the ground, punching the ground as hard as he could, tears coming out of his eyes. I can't talk to you, I'm leaving, are you coming or not? Lin Yi was too lazy to continue talking to this silly girl. If he continued, he might really suffer from internal injuries. Let's go, take me out, heroine. Enrich Sayue nodded like a chick pecking rice, and hurriedly followed. Heroine? Lin Yi staggered and fell to the ground. He was a man, when did he become a heroine? You don't like to be called heroine? Enrich Sayue looked at him strangely, and muttered to herself, since I am a girl, of course I am a heroine, that is what master taught me. Forget it, since you don't like it, I will call you sister, or sister is fine too. Lin Yi had gone completely insane, and Sinyan and the others were laughing so hard that they didn't even have the energy to help him. Things were getting interesting now. The world no longer had a young hero Lin, but a little cis Lin. Girl, listen to me, I am a man, a real man, not a heroine, and definitely not a sister or sister. Lin Yi had to clarify weakly. Talking to this silly girl was really a troublesome thing. He really couldn't keep up with her strange thinking. Ah! Then why do you call yourself a silly girl? You are such a strange person. Enrich Sayue looked up and down at Lin Yi, as if she was watching a pervert. Lin Yi pointed at her for a long time, choked, and finally gave up the idea of clarifying himself, and said helplessly, "Are you going or not?" So much nonsense. Let's go. Of course we're going. I've been wanting to go back for a long time. Enrich Sayue nodded. Then what's in it for me? Lin Yi suddenly thought of something. He stopped and turned to look at her meaningfully. Benefits. Enrich Sayue was stunned for a moment. She suddenly exclaimed and covered her chest with both hands. She looked at Lin Yi with a vigilant face and stammered, "You. What benefits do you want? Master said that I would rather die than obey him." Lin Yi was speechless. He held his forehead and said helplessly, "What are you thinking about? As a chick, can your thoughts be a little more pure? You're teasing me again." Enrich Sayue looked at Lin Yi angrily. Lin Yi's temper had always been good, but dealing with this silly chick, he had already lost count of how many times he wanted to go crazy. He hurriedly took a deep breath to calm himself down, and went straight to the point. "Let's not talk so much. Let me ask you, after you take out the profound nurturing grass, who are you going to find to help you refine the profound nurturing pill?" "Of course I'll hand it over to Master. Then she'll find the Academy's alchemists. The others don't know how to refine the profound nurturing pill," Enrich Sayue said as a matter of fact. "Then what price do you have to pay?" Lin Yi asked again. "Price?" Enrich Sayue subconsciously covered her chest again, and said with a vigilant face, "Master won't let me do that kind of thing. I won't do it even if I die." Everyone burst into laughter again. This silly chick was really a clown. Lin Yi said with a black face, "Who said that kind of thing? I'm saying that even if it's your Academy's alchemists, they won't refine pills for you for free. There must be a price, right?" "Oh, so you're referring to this?" Enrich Sayue then reacted. After thinking for a while, she said, "I heard Master mention it before. It seems that after the pill is refined, half will be given. If the refinement fails, then there's nothing left. Then how many profound nurturing pills can you refine from this profound nurturing grass?" Lin Yi asked again. "This?" Enrich Sayue tilted her head and thought for a long time. She carefully took out the profound nurturing grass from her bosom and gestured with her hands. After a long time, she looked at Lin Yi foolishly and said uncertainly, "It seems like it's enough for 4 portions. If my luck is good, I might be able to refine 4 profound nurturing pills. 4 portions of ingredients, and you want to refine 4 profound nurturing pills? Your Academy's alchemists have such great confidence in refining a 7th grade medicinal pill. Could it be that it's an absolute success?" Lin Yi asked suspiciously. "What's an absolute success?" Enrich Sayue tilted her head and thought for a long time. She roughly guessed Lin Yi's meaning and shook her head repeatedly. "That's definitely impossible. Only if my luck is very good can I refine 4 pills. Normally, it's already not bad to refine 1 or 2. Since that's the case, then I'll refine it for you. I guarantee that I'll give you 3 profound nurturing pills. What do you think?" Lin Yi suggested. "Are you serious? You're lying to me, right?" Enrich Sayue was shocked when she heard that. She wasn't really stupid. Even the Academy's head alchemist wouldn't dare to boast about this. Normal people wouldn't rashly believe a stranger that they had only met once. This fellow couldn't be trying to swindle her of the profound nurturing grass, right? Enrich Sayue hurriedly covered her chest again and looked at Lin Yi with a face of vigilance. "Why would I lie to you?" Lin Yi glanced at her helplessly and said indifferently, "If I was really aiming for your profound nurturing grass, I could just directly snatch it. Why would I need to go through so much trouble? Think about it yourself. Those mere weaklings chased you until you were in such dire straits. If I really wanted to snatch it from you, how much trouble do you think it would take?" This, Enrich Sayue thought about it seriously for a moment. It seemed that what he said made sense. Suddenly, her small face tensed up and she said, "Even so, you can't snatch it." "I don't even want to snatch it," Lin Yi said with a black face. If it wasn't for the sake of getting a few profound nurturing pills for himself and the others, he swore that he definitely wouldn't talk nonsense with this silly girl. It would really make him anxious to death. "Oh, that's good. But can you really refine profound nurturing pills? You don't even have a beard?" Enrich Sayue questioned again. "Whether or not I can refine profound nurturing pills and whether or not I have a beard, what's the connection between these two things?" Lin Yi couldn't help but be a little dazed when he heard that. Of course there's a connection. 7th grade alchemists are all white-bearded grandfathers. You're not one, Enrich Sayue said matter-of-factly. Damn. Lin Yi almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. Talking to this silly girl was really a matter that broke through the horizon. Even when he was facing the vengeful spirit, he didn't have such a headache. To be honest, he really had the urge to leave now. What bullshit profound nurturing pills, who cares? Chapter 49:18. Enrich Sayue didn't have any more shocking ideas this time. She tilted her head and thought for a long time, then looked at Lin Yi and said, "Can you bring me along without refining pills?" "No," Lin Yi answered cleanly. He couldn't talk too much with this silly girl, or he would get angry easily. Then. Okay then. Enrich Sayue didn't really believe that Lin Yi could really refine pills, but she was more afraid of going out alone. Although the spirit-nurturing grass was precious, it shouldn't be a problem to use it as travel expenses, right? If others knew what Enrich Sayue was thinking at this time, they would be so angry that they would kill themselves. A good thing that a group of profound ascending stage masters couldn't even get their hands on was actually used as travel expenses. There should be a limit to wasting natural resources. But no matter what, this spirit-nurturing grass was finally handed over to Lin Yi. Lin Yi couldn't help but look at her with some surprise. Although this silly girl could easily choke people to death, it wasn't without its benefits. At least if it was an ordinary person, they wouldn't hand over the spirit-nurturing grass so easily. "You guys wait here, and keep watch for me," Lin Yi said and found a relatively quiet place with the spirit-nurturing grass. He calmed himself down and started refining pills. All the supplementary materials needed to refine the profound raising pill were already prepared in the storage of spiritual herbs in the space within the jade pendant. This was also the reason why he suddenly made this suggestion. Otherwise, he wouldn't have thought of Ni Yinghong. His refining pills like this. Enrich Sayue glanced at Lin Yi from afar and said with a strange expression, "Is he really trying to cheat me of this spirit-nurturing grass? He doesn't even have a cauldron, how is he going to refine pills?" "Liar. He really isn't lying. He always carries a cauldron with him." Wang Xinyan smiled. "Really? But he's clearly empty-handed." Enrich Sayue hadn't finished speaking when she saw a cauldron appear in front of Lin Yi. She was stunned and rubbed her eyes desperately. "Am I seeing things? Where did that stove come from?" Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao looked at each other and smiled. It was one thing for Wang Xinyan to see it, but they couldn't say it out loud. In fact, Lu Xiaozhong didn't understand either. With a puzzled expression, he said, "Master Lin is indeed Master Lin. He can even carry an alchemy furnace with him, and it's so amazing. As expected of Grandmaster Qing Danzi's master, he has an apprentice." Enrich Sayue was even more shocked as she doubted, his accepting disciples at such a young age? Isn't he afraid of misleading them? Misleading students? Lu Xiaozhong glanced at her disdainfully and said, "Master Qing Danzi is our Morning Star Academy's chief alchemist, a genuine level 7 alchemist. Even he is willing to become a disciple of Master Lin. Do you think this is misleading the students?" "Ah!" Enrich Sayue's mouth instantly formed an O shape. She was stunned for a long time before she weakly said, "I don't go out much, don't lie to me. You'll know soon enough if I'm lying or not. Come, let's find a place to sit and talk while we wait." Xinyan smiled. "Oh." Enrich Sayue nodded obediently. Perhaps it was because of Xinyan's natural friendliness, but she didn't have any wariness towards Xinyan at all. She naturally felt close to Xinyan, and didn't suspect anything like she did with Lin Yi. The group of people sat in the distance and waited. After 6 hours, Enrich had completely become familiar with Xinyan and the others. She called each other big sister and little sister. Both Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao were very close to her. After all, her silly and cute personality was very lovable. Of course, this didn't include the crazy Lin Yi. "Yo, you guys are eating. Give me some." Lin Yi suddenly squeezed his butt in. Lu Xiaozhong hurriedly handed over the barbecued meat in his hand. This was a small spirit beast that he had caught nearby. The meat was fresh and tender, and the texture was very good. He thought that Lin Yi's alchemy would take a long time, so he decided to have an outdoor barbecue. He didn't expect that Lin Yi would finish before they even started eating. "You finished refining it so quickly? Are you lying to me?" Enrich jumped up with an expression as if her intelligence had been severely insulted. She said angrily, "Even if you're lying to me, you should at least be serious. How can refining a mysterious raising pill be this fast? Even the alchemists in our school need a few days." Lin Yi didn't pay attention to her at all. As he ate the barbecued meat, he freed a hand in front of Enrich. "What?" Enrich jumped in fright. She quickly crossed her arms in front of her chest to protect herself. She pitifully begged, "If you're lying to me, then lie to me. Can you not hit me?" Lin Yi choked, almost choking to death on the spot. He struggled for a long time before opening his palms. "Who's going to hit you? See for yourself." "Oh." Enrich responded weakly. When she saw the thing in Lin Yi's hand, she was immediately stunned. She stuttered, This is a mysterious raising pill. 3 mysterious raising pills? At least you're not that stupid. Here, keep it yourself, I won't care if you lose it." Lin Yi casually threw the 3 pills to Enrich, making the silly girl panic. She only managed to catch them after a moment of confusion. She looked at them with surprise and joy before carefully putting them away. There was only 1 stalk of mysterious raising grass, which was only enough for 4 sets of ingredients. But in a short 6 hours, 3 mysterious raising pills were made. This result shocked Enrich. But what made her even more speechless was that Lin Yi gave Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao 1 each. That wasn't all. Lin Yi still had 2 in his hands. This meant that he'd made 7 mysterious raising pills in one go. Enrich was going crazy. She had never seen the world before, but she knew what this meant. 4 sets of ingredients to make 7 mysterious raising pills. What kind of person was this? At this time, she looked at Lin Yi as if she was looking at a monster. Although she was far away and had been chatting with Wang Xinyan and the others, she didn't see the specific process of Lin Yi's pill making. But this wasn't important. Just this result alone was enough to shock the world. "Young hero, who are you learning from? Why are you so powerful?" Enrich couldn't help but ask. Although she felt that Lin Yi was very powerful when he defeated Chang Liting, Old Xiao, and Old Li with ease. After all, these were not ordinary early-stage profound ascension masters. They were all strong people who could challenge above their level. It was not easy for Lin Yi to defeat them so easily. But all this only made her feel that he was powerful. She had never been so shocked. Chapter 49:19. Didn't I tell you long ago that I'm from the North Island? Why are you so dull? Is your memory bad? Lin Yi glanced at her and said, You. Enrich was so anxious that she didn't know how to refute. She tilted her head and thought for a long time. Suddenly, her eyes lit up and she said, I remember now. What? You finally remember that I said I'm from the North Island? Your reflex arc is really long. Lin Yi said with a smile, somewhat speechless. No. I remember Master once said that there's a very powerful super expert in the North Island. His name seems to be. Enrich choked halfway. What's his name? The first person that came to Lin Yi's mind at this moment was Ram Jie, the head of the Law Enforcement Hall. This legendary figure of the young generation in the North Island had given Lin Yi a strong and inexplicable pressure since the first time he heard of him. He was also a figure that he secretly vowed to surpass in the future. But on second thought, Lin Yi knew that he was thinking too much. He thought of Ram Jie purely because he was a goal that he had to surpass. It was impossible for Ram Jie's fame to be so well known even in Dongju. Not to mention others, there should be many people in the North Island who were stronger than Ram Jie. For example, Lan Tiefu, the eldest senior brother who was in charge of the inner gate of Soaring Pavilion. Judging from his performance in the face of the new Azure Dragon, this person's strength should not be weaker than Ram Jie, let alone those super big shots standing at the top. Shangguan Tianhua. Yes, it's Shangguan Tianhua. Enrich clapped her hands excitedly and looked at Lin Yi with shining eyes. Young hero, you're so powerful that even people like Chang Lighting are no match for you. You're invincible at the same level, and you're also a super alchemist. You must be a disciple of Shangguan Tianhua, right? Lin Yi smiled secretly. Sure enough, it was Shanghai Tianhua. Ren Zhongyuan and others were impressed by him during the trial in the West Island because of his name. It could be seen that this super big shot was not simple. Otherwise, if it was just the name of the head of Soaring Pavilion, it would at most shock the North Island. It was impossible for him to be so famous in Dongju. Congratulations, you're right. Lin Yi nodded. He didn't want to deny it. After all, it would be troublesome to explain. He might as well not explain. It wasn't wrong to say it. Sure enough. I heard from Master that Shanghai Tianhua is a big shot who left a legend in Dongju. His strength is so strong that it makes people's hair stand on end. Young hero, you're his disciple. You're so powerful. Enrich eyes were full of little stars of worship. He used to be a legend in Dongju, Lin Yi couldn't help laughing. This was not a surprising thing. Except for the spirit beasts, almost all the big shots on the other Heaven Stage Islands had studied in Dongju. It was normal for them to leave a legend. But Lin Yi was still a little surprised. Speaking of which, Lin Yi had met Shanghai Tianhua many times. Because of Shanghai Lena, they were familiar with each other, and it was widely rumored that he was Shanghai Tianhua's personal disciple. But Lin Yi knew very little about this super big shot in the North Island, and he knew nothing about his past. This was the first time he learned about it from Enrich. No. Enrich suddenly shook her head. Shanghai Tianhua doesn't seem to be an elixir refiner. You're so good at it, he didn't teach you, did he? Oh. Then who do you think taught me? Lin Yi was speechless as he looked at Xinyan and the others. She'd already admitted that she was right, but she herself was wrong. Talking to this NI girl was too much of a hassle. Enrich tilted her head and thought for a while. She smacked her head and said, I remember now, I heard that there's a very powerful elixir god Zhongliju from the North Island. Are you his disciple? Congratulations on getting 2 answers. Your smart IQ has taken the high ground again. Lin Yi was like a hoodwinker. I'm actually quite smart. Enrich raised her head proudly. After a while, she blinked and asked, what is IQ? What high ground? It's nothing. It doesn't have much to do with you. Lin Yi's words made Xinyan giggle. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at Lin Yi. She was the only one who understood what he meant. Oh, as long as it doesn't have anything to do with me. Enrich followed his advice. This time, it wasn't just Xinyan, even Lin Yi himself was amused. Seeing the confused look on Xinyan's face, he quickly put on a serious face. Shangguan Tianhua, Zhongliju, whose disciple am I? I know. You're their disciple. Enrich couldn't wait to answer. Congratulations. You know how to answer first. Lin Yi gave her a thumbs up with a face full of respect. Facing this kind of dumb girl, his hidden great trickster attribute was brought out completely. Everything else aside, the sounds of laughter and chatting along the way were quite entertaining. The 5 of them returned to the teleportation point. Since they took the main road, they didn't encounter any accidents. They didn't even see a spirit beast. As for the students, they all stayed far away from them. After all, no one was deliberately hiding their strength. The 5 of them were all early-stage mysterious ascendant experts. This kind of powerful lineup was almost invincible in the path of giants. No one dared to provoke them, or else they might be killed and robbed. This kind of thing was too common. 2 days later, Lin Yi's group finally returned to the teleportation point. The other students all made way for them. Very soon, they were teleported out. Coming out of the teleportation formation was the dock. At this time, there were less than half of the battleships and ships that were docked here. However, the academies that didn't have all of their disciples would naturally stay here and wait. After a month, they would have to leave regardless of whether all of their disciples had arrived or not. This was the rule of the Golden Step Academy's alliance. Young warrior, I understand now. You're actually a very good person. Enrich Sayue suddenly turned to Lin Yi. After leaving the teleportation point, they would naturally return to their own ships and forget about each other. Is that so? It's not easy to hear something nice from you, Lin Yi said with a chuckle. It was rare that he didn't use a preamble to hide his feelings. Congratulations. Yes, I'll remember you. Enrich Sayue nodded. Chapter 49:20. I will always remember you, Enrich Sayue repeated. However, before Lin Yi could be moved, this silly girl suddenly blinked and said, What's your name again? I'm going to faint. You don't even know my name. How are you going to remember it? Lin Yi almost fell. Under the laughter of Wang Xinyan and the others, he could only helplessly smile and say, My name is Lin Yi. Lin Yi. Why does it sound so ordinary? I thought it was a very powerful name. Enrich Sayue pouted. There's such a thing as powerful or not. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was the first time he heard such a novel and unique way of saying it. Of course, but Lin Yi is Lin Yi. I'll remember it. Enrich Sayue smiled slightly and said, Then let's meet at the Xuanjie area. At that time, we can be friends, don't. In my eyes, women can only be girlfriends, so forget it, Lin Yi joked. Ah, you're teasing me again. Enrich Sayue suddenly blushed again. However, she was wearing a veil, so others couldn't see it. You're too sensitive. This is called teasing. Alright, hurry up and go. The people in your academy are calling you. Lin Yi smiled and reminded her. At this time, someone on a treasure ship in the distance was waving at him. Looking at the flag, it was Donghua Academy, where Enrich Sayue was from. Oh, then I'm leaving. But don't tease me again next time. Enrich Sayue hurriedly waved her hand at the people on the treasured vessel, and she was about to turn around and leave in high spirits. However, she just turned around when she saw a face that was gloomy like water, and she was instantly shocked and cried out involuntarily. Chang Lighting. Temph, you didn't expect it, right? I've been waiting for you here for a long time. Chang Lighting sneered. At this moment, Laro Xiao was still behind him, but there was no Laro Li. After being struck by Lin Yi's lightning, which was comparable to the thunder retribution, although he showed mercy and did not kill him on the spot, it was impossible for him to get out of bed without lying down for a few months. On the contrary, the sudden appearance of Chang Lighting here made Lin Yi somewhat surprised. This guy's injury was not as serious as Laro Li. After all, Lin Yi only used him to test his moves at that time, and he only tested the 4-attribute martial technique. But how many days had it been? This guy was actually as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger. Apart from some scars on his body, his movements were completely normal. It seemed that he must have taken some top-grade tonic like the Great Revitalizing Pill. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to recover so quickly just by relying on conventional healing methods. Don't come over. Enrich Sayue was frightened and panicked. She subconsciously hid behind Lin Yi. Chang Lighting's gloomy face suddenly turned darker. Some of the academy's disciples around who knew the inside story whispered. Enrich Sayue was not only the third fairy of Gaolin Sea area, but also the Taoist companion of Chang Lighting. But now, in order to hide from Chang Lighting, she fled behind another man. This scene was really weird. There was no shortage of people gossiping everywhere. In just a moment, a heart-wrenching love triangle story intertwined with love and hate had been fresh out of the oven and instantly spread throughout the audience. Listening to these off-key whispers, Chang Lighting was about to explode. He pointed at Lin Yi and said angrily, "Little bastard, I finally found you. Great. Not only did you sneak attack me inside, you even dared to seduce my Taoist companion in front of everyone. Do you know who I am? Actually, Chang Leiting's style was not to use his power to suppress others. Under normal circumstances, he would first cripple the opponent and then show off his powerful background. Only then would he be able to fully display his power as one of the 4 young masters of nascent soul realm. But this time, he could not do it. The previous fight had shown the difference in strength between the 2 sides. Chang Leiting was not a fool. No matter how arrogant he was, he knew that he was no match for Lin Yi. Therefore, he could only change his way of thinking and directly use his powerful background to suppress others. Hey, aren't you Chang Leiting? Didn't we just meet a few days ago? I'm not that forgetful. What else do you want? Lin Yi glanced at him indifferently. It's good that you know. I'm not afraid to tell you that I am the son of the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy, Zong Zili, Chang Leiting said arrogantly. As soon as he finished speaking, there was a sudden uproar. The chief alchemist of any academy was a big shot, at least in the top 5 of the academy. However, under normal circumstances, no matter how high the position of the chief alchemist was, he could only be ranked 2nd, just below the dean of the academy. However, this Tripod City Academy was extremely special. The position of the chief alchemist was higher than that of the dean. This was because this was an academy that focused on alchemy. At least half of the academy's students were alchemists. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Tripod City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists. To be able to become the chief alchemist of such an academy, one's status was far above that of other Yellowstep academies. In the East Continent's Yellowstep Sea region, this academy was practically the banner of all alchemists. Whether it was status or influence, it was no small matter. However, Lin Yi didn't know about this. To be precise, even if he knew, he wouldn't care. After all, even a 7th-grade alchemist like Qing Danzi was willing to be his disciple. Even if this Tripod City Academy was the cradle of alchemists, there was no way that a 7th-grade alchemist would be willing to be someone else's disciple. Oh, your father's surname is Zong, but your surname is Chang? You're the latter. Lin Yi's focus was a little more unique, and he even revealed an expression of curiosity and gossip. Hearing this, Chang Leiting almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He said angrily, "That's my mother." Oh, I see. So, the chief alchemist of Tripod City Academy is a woman. Sorry about that, Lin Yi smiled without sincerity. Then, he cooperated and asked, "What about your father?" I'm going to say it now. You'd better be careful and stand firm, or you'll be scared to the ground by me. That would be too embarrassing. Chang Leiting said with a disdainful look. Oh, I'm listening. Don't worry about me. I've always been open-minded. Come and scare me. Lin Yi smiled faintly, as if he was asking for a slap in the face. This little bastard really deserved a beating. Seeing this scene, Chang Leiting was so angry that his teeth hurt. However, he didn't dare to attack directly. He could only continue to put on a disdainful look and said, "Listen up, my father is the mayor of Tripod City." Suddenly, there was another round of exclamations. However, Lin Yi had a look of realization on his face. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Oh, I understand. Your Tripod City Academy is a small place in the countryside. Other academies are cities, but yours is a town." Chapter 49:21. Although from the name, the standard of Cauldron Town seemed to be a little lower than the main cities of those academies, but don't forget that Cauldron City Academy was the cradle of high-level alchemists, and Cauldron Town was the holy land of alchemists in the Yellow Class C region. Almost all the alchemists in the Yellow Class C region had to go there for a pilgrimage, and its status was extraordinary. In fact, although it was called Cauldron Town, its overall size was bigger than the main cities of those academies. The so-called Cauldron Town was just its most core area, a holy land of alchemists that no one could enter. Not only was Cauldron Town not small, but because of its super strong influence as the holy land of alchemists, it could even compete with Thunder City, where the headquarters of the Yellow Class Academy Alliance was located. The position of its town lord, even among the city lords of all the Yellow Class Academy main cities, was also among the best. Such a holy land of alchemists with such a high status was actually said to be a small place in the countryside. How could those who really came from small places endure this? Wayayayayayaya. I'm so angry. Little bastard, you're courting death. Someone, cripple him for me. Chang Lighting stomped his feet and cursed. While speaking, he himself did not make a move. First, he knew that he could not beat Lin Yi, and second, there was no need for him to do it himself. There were many people who were willing to take care of Lin Yi for him. Of course, this certainly did not include old Xiao. In front of Lin Yi, he could only piss his pants in terror. Even if he had the heart, he did not have the strength. Sure enough, as soon as Chang Lighting's voice fell, two profound ascension late-stage experts with extraordinary aura suddenly flashed beside her. More and more onlookers quickly made way for them. Although many of them were already new profound ascension early-stage experts, compared to these two senior profound ascension late-stage experts, there was still too much of a difference. Just this cold aura alone made people feel afraid, and they did not dare to cross the line. Bold madman, you dare to sneak attack young Master Chang in the trial, and now you are boasting shamelessly in public to slander my Cauldron City Academy. You're not going to surrender. One of them frowned and shouted. Who are you people? Lin Yi's expression did not change in the slightest as he sized up the two profound ascension late-stage experts who had suddenly appeared. Although their auras were strong and powerful, they should not be fake goods. However, he could clearly feel that the auras of these two people were a little rough. It seemed that they were not people who often fought, at least not very good at it. Lin Yi's guess wasn't wrong at all. These two were the libationers of Cauldron City, and they were high-level refiners as well. Naturally, they didn't spar with people like the other mystical late-phase masters, and it was inevitable that their auras were a bit rough. Humph. We are the libation of the Tripod City Academy. Which academy are you from? Hurry up and tell us your name, the two of them said in a condescending tone. With Chang Lighting's powerful background, these two ordinary Grand Chancellors could only curry favor with him. Of course, they had to put on a good performance at this time. However, they couldn't just attack without saying anything. They had to put on a big hat for Lin Yi first. Otherwise, if this matter were to spread, they would have the reputation of bullying the weak. That would tarnish the reputation of Cauldron City Academy. Me? Didn't Chang Lighting tell you? Lin Yi glanced at Chang Lighting in surprise. Chang Lighting's face immediately turned red. He had only asked these two to teach Lin Yi a lesson to vent his anger. As for the details of what happened on the path of a tyrant, he would not go into detail. After all, it would be too embarrassing. The two Grand Chancellors froze for a moment. When they saw Chang Lighting's expression, they immediately knew that something was wrong. They quickly changed their words. No matter which academy you are from, you dare to slander our Cauldron City Academy in public. Just based on this alone, we cannot let you off easily. We can keep your life, but we must cripple your cultivation today as a warning to others. You are too much. Hearing this, Wang Xinyan could no longer hold it in. She immediately stepped forward. The aura of an early-stage profound ascension expert was unmistakable. Not only her, but Huang Xiaodao and Lu Xiaozhong also revealed their strength. In this way, including Lin Yi himself, there were a total of 4 early-stage mystical ascension masters. Although it was not worth mentioning in front of the 2 late-stage mystical ascension masters, the atmosphere still became very tense. Do you want to have your cultivation crippled as well? If you ruin your future in a moment of impulse, you can only live in the darkness and helplessness for the rest of your lives. Hurry up and back off. The 2 Grand Chancellors frowned when they saw the situation. They did not think that these people were very strong when they teamed up. In fact, if they really fought, 4 early-stage profound ascension experts wouldn't even be able to withstand a single move from them. However, if things really developed to that point, there would be repercussions. Because of Lin Yi's rudeness, the 2 of them had crippled his cultivation in front of everyone. This was not something that could be criticized, but if they were to cripple 4 new early-stage profound ascension experts, and they seemed to be from the same academy, then there would be a huge enmity. Once things got out of hand, the Cauldron City Academy would definitely have to give an explanation, and this black pot could only be placed on the 2 of them. After all, they couldn't push the blame onto Chang Lighting, could they? TSK, I didn't think that the Cauldron City Academy would be so tyrannical. I thought that only the Lei Dong Academy was like this. Today is really an eye-opener. Lu Xiaozhong was a person who wished for the whole world to be in chaos. Not only was he not afraid at this time, he even went to provoke the other side. At most, it would be a chaotic battle. He had seen this kind of scene many times. Kid, you better be careful with your words. We only didn't want to make a move because you are all students of the same academy. Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit, the Grand Chancellor of the Cauldron City Academy said coldly. Aya, I'm so scared. Lu Xiaozhong shouted with an exaggerated face. That expression really deserved a beating no matter how you looked at it. It was like his father Lu Dachang had inherited it. Die. The two Grand Chancellors were so angry that their mouths were crooked. If it weren't for the last bit of rationality, they would have slapped Lu Xiaozhong to death. This kid was too hateful. Your academy is really powerful, wanting to cripple someone's cultivation without any reason. Do you really think that our Morningstar Academy is easy to bully? Wang Xinyan quickly stood up and said, not daring to let Lu Xiaozhong talk nonsense anymore. After all, they were facing two late-stage profound ascension masters. If they were to fight, they would definitely be at a disadvantage. The best solution today was to bring up the name of the Morningstar Academy so that the other side wouldn't dare to act rashly. After all, in terms of strength, the Morningstar Academy was considered a top-tier existence among the Golden Stage Academies. Chapter 49-22. What's there to be afraid of? That little bastard is from the North Island, he's not from the Morningstar Academy. Chang Lighting snorted in dissatisfaction. From the North Island? The two Tripod City Academy chancellors froze for a moment, then felt relieved. A mere disciple from the North Island wouldn't be a problem even if he was killed on the spot, let alone crippling his cultivation. Would Shanghai Tianhua come all the way to the East Continent just for a disciple from the North Island? You guys listen up, today we will only punish this insolent kid. If anyone else interferes, don't blame us for being merciless. The two chancellors' expressions turned serious, and they were about to attack Lin Yi. Wang Xinyan and the others' hearts sank, and they quickly tried to block in front of Lin Yi, but Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand. You guys go back and watch the show, I'm just about to get some exercise. Huh. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao looked at each other, stunned. Seeing that Lin Yi wasn't nervous at all, they looked at each other and retreated. Although they had faith in Lin Yi's strength, a profound ascending early stage against two profound ascending late stage, wasn't the difference a little too big? As for Lu Xiaozhong, he retreated quickly. He wasn't stupid, and although he wasn't afraid of trouble, it didn't mean that he wasn't afraid of death. Since Lin Yi said that he only needed to watch the show, he naturally wouldn't be stupid enough to be cannon fodder. He, a mere disciple from the North Island shore has a big mouth. The two chancellors laughed when they heard this. They thought that Lin Yi was a frog at the bottom of a well who had never seen the world. He was the king of a small place like the North Island, and he thought that he would be invincible in the East Continent. He was really stupid to a certain extent. Daydreams would always be broken one day, and today was the perfect time to wake him up. Seeing that Chang Lighting had already revealed an impatient expression, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately leaped up and were about to attack Lin Yi. However, before the two of them could take their stances, Lin Yi suddenly raised his hand and shouted coldly, "Thousand thunder explosions." As late-stage profound ascension experts, the two chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy displayed extreme contempt towards Lin Yi's moves. However, before the contempt could even be seen on their faces, the two of them suddenly twitched and fell to the ground, a thick dark blue lightning pillar on top of their heads. Hiss. The sound of people gasping in unison rose and fell, and it was continuous and unending. They didn't have time to do anything, and the two late-stage mystical ascension masters were lying on the ground with black smoke coming out of them. Everyone looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. Was this guy really a mystical ascension master? Could this guy be a spirit beast? Someone couldn't help but whisper. It's possible, no, it should be very possible. Even if a human cultivator has a lightning attribute spiritual root, it's still impossible for him to release such a powerful lightning strike. It's almost at the level of a lightning tribulation. Oh, no, This is even stronger than a lightning tribulation. Someone immediately echoed. Yes, yes, a human cultivator can actually release a lightning tribulation. I've never heard of it before. Those powerful lightning attribute spirit beasts are more like it. I heard that not only are there lightning eagles, but there's also the legendary thunder dragon. Could this guy be a thunder dragon? Someone immediately had a brainwave. Yes, 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 and you still say that he's from the North Island. When did the people of the North Island become so powerful? It's impossible. It must be the thunder attribute spirit beast inside that couldn't bear the loneliness and came out to fish in troubled waters. That must be it. Someone else said confidently. That makes sense. The teleportation circle here only has a one-way restriction. Although only original soul stage masters can enter, there's no restriction on strength. It's completely possible. Everyone quickly came to a conclusion. Listening to the whispers of the people around them, Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Although they were also shocked by Lin Yi's sudden burst of power, they still thought that he was a thunder attribute spirit beast. What were they thinking? Oh, so he's the legendary thunder dragon. No wonder he's so powerful. Enrich Sayue's eyes lit up. She agreed with this statement. Wang Xinyan and the others were completely shocked by her. She had just helped him concoct the profound raising pill. How could he be the legendary thunder dragon? Could it be that a thunder dragon could become an alchemist? This girl's brain was really different from normal people. However, Lin Yi didn't pay any attention to the discussions around him. He was completely immersed in the joy of the 1,000 lightning explosions. The one who was most shocked by the 1,000 lightning explosions wasn't the spectators, but himself. The 1,000 thunderbolts explosion was a new technique that he had come up with on the way here. The origin of this technique came from the thunder dragon. Everyone was right about this. Before this, Lin Yi's thunder and lightning energy was many times stronger than before. However, he hadn't truly grasped the essence of it. The way he attacked was simple and plain. To put it bluntly, he just let the thunder and lightning energy in his body pour out in torrents. There was no technique to speak of. This was like a wealthy man who obviously had too much money at home, but he would only use it like an ordinary person to feed and clothe himself. Apart from that, he didn't know how to spend so much money. It was simply a reckless waste of God's gifts. When he first received the thunder inheritance, Lin Yi only knew how to use arcs of electricity. Now that his thunder and lightning energy had grown many times stronger, the so-called lightning strike he mastered was actually a magnified version of arcs of electricity. There was no difference between the two. With Lin Yi's comprehension, he quickly realized that there was a problem. However, it wasn't easy for Lin Yi to figure out what the problem was. He needed advice from an expert. Unfortunately, the giant eel that gave him the thunder inheritance had long since perished. That ghost didn't specialize in thunder and lightning, so it was difficult for it to give him any advice. That was until he went to Thunder Burial City. The vengeful spirits Yuanshan controlled the thunder dragon's corpse to use a few bolts of purple lightning. While it made Lin Yi suffer a lot, it also benefited him a lot. Not only did the thunder and lightning energy in his body become stronger, but it also gave him the opportunity to take a peek at some tricks. To be able to reach such a level of purple lightning, it was definitely not a simple superposition of the power of thunder and lightning. If that was the case, at most, it would be dark blue. With the thunder and lightning energy in Lin Yi's body, it was more than enough to deal with Chang Lighting and the others. However, once he faced a real master, he wouldn't even need to face a master of the mountain opening stage. Just a master of the profound ascending stage would be difficult to deal with. Chapter 49-23. When lightning strikes could not kill people, the threat would naturally be greatly reduced, and it was very likely to return to the previous embarrassing situation, where it could only be used to restrain and harass, but could not become a truly powerful killing move. Fortunately, Lin Yi had learned a trick from the long-dead Lei Long. He discovered that the opponent's purple lightning was far from a simple superposition of the power of lightning, but there were clear signs of some lightning particles colliding. The difference was very subtle, and even with Lin Yi's observation skills, it was hard for him to notice it right away. But this wasn't the first time he'd been struck by lightning. He'd been struck by lightning so many times, and he'd had a taste of the purple lightning. Without a doubt, other than the difference in the strength of the lightning, the most fundamental difference was the collision of the lightning particles. However, understanding was just understanding. Wanting to grasp such an exquisite and profound skill in an instant was not realistic. After all, Lin Yi himself was just a beginner who had barely learned lightning strikes, and it was impossible for him to directly reach the level of Lei Long in one step. However, he could follow this train of thought, and use his own method to transform the lightning strike bit by bit to become more powerful. The 1000 Thunderbolt explosion was the first step that Lin Yi had taken, integrating the violent Sand 1000 explosive fist technique into the lightning strike, and thus came the shocking 1000 Thunderbolt explosion just now. Of course, it could also be called the violent lightning 1000 explosive fist, but Lin Yi clearly liked the 1000 Thunderbolt explosion more. It was awe-inspiring and imposing. All kinds of discussions could be heard from the surroundings. Most of them actually did not see what happened clearly. They only saw a thick dark blue lightning flash in front of their eyes, and then two profound Ascension late-stage experts lay down straight with black smoke rising from their bodies. But this did not hinder their imagination. For a time, all kinds of strange theories were clamoring. In contrast, the theory that Lin Yi was the incarnation of Lei Long was already considered reliable, and even more outrageous was that Lin Yi was the incarnation of the power of lightning, and even said that Lin Yi was the illegitimate child of the god of thunder and the goddess of lightning. Lin Yi was speechless. He couldn't help but want to point at these people's noses and scold them for being so superstitious. The spectators at the side were only discussing amongst themselves. Chang Liting, who was only a few steps away from the two chancellors, was so scared that he peed his pants. His heart was filled with lingering fear. Fortunately, he had learned his lesson last time and had the self-awareness to let these two unlucky chancellors act on his behalf. Otherwise, he would have been hacked into pieces on the spot. Young Master Chang, what do you think we should do next? Lin Yi cracked his knuckles maliciously. The dark blue electric arcs jumping on his fingertips were ready to move, just like the god of thunder. Feeling the cold killing intent in Lin Yi's eyes, Chang Liting was scared stiff. Every time the electric arc on Lin Yi's fingertips jumped, he couldn't help but tremble. He was afraid that 1000 Thunderbolts explosion would suddenly appear on his head and smoke together with the two unlucky chancellors on the ground. You! How dare you attack me? Chang Liting was already very courageous for not running away on the spot. With his pride, he would never lose face in front of so many people. Moreover, in this place, even if he couldn't beat Lin Yi, there were plenty of people who could beat this Northern Island bumpkin to death. Didn't you see it? Is your eyesight bad? Lin Yi smiled faintly. Chang Liting was choked to the point of vomiting blood. He pointed at Lin Yi and gnashed his teeth. Just you wait. Believe it or not, I'll make you die without a burial place. I can't do anything to you inside, but since you're out, I can kill you with just a finger. Then hurry up and move. You're so noisy. You're not a man at all. Let me help you. Lin Yi felt that he was wasting time. As he spoke, the electric arc jumping on his fingertips suddenly grew into a dark blue lightning pillar. Although it was just a simplified version of 1000 Thunderbolts explosion, it was still breathtaking. Before his voice died away, the lightning pillar directly fell on the head of Chang Liting. Young Master Chang, who was fierce in appearance but weak in heart, immediately fell straight down with black smoke. His posture was the same as that of the two unlucky chancellors, or even worse. There was a faint smell of burnt flesh on his body. All the people present were suddenly stunned. One by one, they hurriedly retreated more than 10 feet. They looked at Lin Yi with a horrified expression as if they were watching the fire cloud evil god. When did such a ruthless person appear in the Northern Island? Without saying a word, he killed two unlucky chancellors in the late profound ascension stage. Now, because he felt that the other party was too long-winded, he moved his finger and struck Chang Liting down. Was this guy going to repeat the ruthless deeds of Shanghai Tianhua? Back then, Shanghai Tianhua had forced the Academy Alliance into a corner all by himself. Although this guy with lightning all over his body was slightly weaker, it was obvious that he was also heading in that direction. After all, this was the territory of the Golden Stage Academy Alliance. Let's go. Lin Yi said to Wang Xinyan and the others behind him. He took the lead and walked in the direction of the dock. The surrounding people hurriedly made way for him, afraid that they would accidentally provoke this ruthless person from the northern island. This place was not suitable for them to stay for long. Since Chang Liting and the others had come to the door, Lin Yi of course had to fight back. However, he also expected that doing so would definitely cause trouble. It was best to return to the Morning Star Academy's treasure ship first. That way, he would have another layer of protection, and others would more or less have to worry about him. However, before Lin Yi and the others could take a few steps, a group of people suddenly appeared in front of them, blocking their way. Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. These people all had a special symbol on them, which was completely different from the symbols of ordinary academies. The key point was that every one of them had a monstrous aura. They were all Magnet Realm Masters in the early mountain opening stage. After coming to the Heavenly Stage Island for 2 years, Lin Yi could be considered to have seen a lot of the world. He had once been chased by the West Mountain Old Sect, but he had never been surrounded like this before. In front of him was a whole group of Magnet Realm Masters of the mountain opening stage. This group of Magnet Realm Masters obviously did not come with good intentions. Seeing this, Wang Xinyan and the others couldn't help but turn pale. With their strength, they might be able to deal with the mysterious late-stage masters, but now that they were facing Magnet Realm Masters, what could they do? At this time, the surrounding spectators were even more in an uproar. Although many of them were mysterious early-stage masters, in front of so many Magnet Realm Masters, they couldn't even stand firm. They could only quickly retreat a few hundred feet to barely withstand the pressure of this monstrous aura. Who dares to cause trouble here? Arrest them. The leader's strength was much stronger than the others. He was actually a mountain opening stage master. Chapter 49-24. As expected of the East Continent where super experts gathered. Even if it was just a Golden Stage Academy alliance, it still had such a shocking strength. It was really not a small matter. The middle stage mountain opening expert seemed to be the guard captain. With a command, the 2 middle stage mountain opening experts walked towards Lin Yi, one on the left and one on the right. At this moment, Lin Yi's mind was racing. To be honest, the path of the magnet had not only allowed him to successfully advance to the profound ascension realm, but he had also mastered such a powerful lightning power. Now was the time for him to be bursting with confidence. However, no matter how confident he was, suddenly facing 2 middle-stage magnet experts was still a huge pressure. After all, these 2 people were not the 2 unlucky chancellors from before. The 1,000 Thunderbolts explosion could deal with the middle-stage magnet experts, but to say that they could even deal with the middle-stage magnet experts at the middle stage was too whimsical. Not to mention the others, even Lin Yi himself did not believe it. However, this situation was obviously disadvantageous to him. Lin Yi could not just give up, right? He could not resist, and he could not resist either. Lin Yi was suddenly in a dilemma, and he could not help but feel a little regretful. He did not regret taking care of Chang Liting and the 2 unlucky chancellors, but he regretted not escaping back to the treasure ship after taking care of the 3 of them. If he was on the treasure ship of the Morning Star Academy, then even the guards of the Academy Alliance would not be able to capture him in public, right? At most, it would just be wrangling. He had miscalculated. Lin Yi sighed to himself. Just as he was about to make a decision, someone suddenly stood up from behind him. It was Lu Xiaozhong. Why should we capture Master Lin? They were the ones who caused trouble first. Master Lin was only defending himself. Everyone can see this. Lu Xiaozhong shouted at the top of his lungs. Although facing so many giants of the mountain opening stage at such a close distance, he was not a person who was afraid of trouble. Moreover, his father was a giant of the mountain opening stage, and his strength was even stronger than these people, so he did not feel that there was anything to be afraid of. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel a little moved when he saw this. In fact, he didn't have much friendship with Lu Xiaozhong. At most, Lu Xiaozhong took care of him a little on the road to becoming a giant, but he didn't give him too many benefits. At this time, it was really commendable that Lu Xiaozhong could stand up for him without fear of power. Yeah, Lin Yi isn't guilty. What right do you have to arrest him? Xinyan and Xiaodao jumped in front of Lin Yi as well. What? Do you want to be arrested as well? The leader of the guards narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at the three of them. His dignified face was suddenly filled with displeasure, ruthlessness, and even killing intent. As the only military establishment of the Academy Alliance, the authority of the Alliance Guards was not to be underestimated. Killing was only one of the most basic duties. As long as they could come up with a reason, they could easily kill any disciple of any academy. Therefore, if they dared to disobey, even if they killed Lin Yi and the others on the spot, they would have died in vain. The Morning Star Academy would not even have the right to pursue the matter. Under such circumstances, ordinary people would have long fled to some corner after feeling the killing intent of the guards. However, Lu Xiaozhong was surprisingly unyielding. He straightened his neck and said, "I didn't do anything, I was only asking. Is that not enough? Do we, the disciples of the Morning Star Academy, not even have this little bit of authority?" As a mid-mountain opening stage expert, the leader of the guards could not be bothered to talk nonsense with such a small fry. He immediately ordered coldly, "Arrest them all." At this time, he was already being very polite by not saying to kill them all on the spot. Of course, he was not a fool. If he really killed them without saying anything, even if the Morning Star Academy could not pursue the matter openly, they would definitely hate him to the core. The three heads of the Morning Star Academy were not people to be trifled with. Seeing that the two Erla Mountain opening stage experts were about to make a move, Lin Yi frowned. He never had the habit of waiting to be captured. Back then, he had dared to challenge the West Mountain Elder when he was only at the Gold Core stage, let alone now. To be honest, with Lin Yi's current strength at the early Profound Ascension stage, facing these mountain opening stage experts was no longer out of reach. If he really wanted to go all out, he might be able to put up a fight. Just as Lin Yi was about to go all out, a stern and somewhat familiar voice suddenly came from afar. "What are you doing? You're blocking the way, hurry up and get out of the way." When everyone heard the voice, they could not help but exclaim softly. No wonder the voice was familiar, it was the young-looking president of the Alliance. After seeing the president of the Alliance, the mid-mountain opening stage guard captain immediately lowered his head. After bowing with a respectful expression, he respectfully reported, "President, there's a fight here. I'm dealing with it now." "Then why aren't you moving? What's wrong with blocking the way here?" The president glared at him, then turned to the woman beside him with some deliberate humility. He smiled apologetically and said, "Master Zong, I'm sorry to have made a fool of myself in front of you." "Chimph, it's nothing." The woman snorted coldly. Although she maintained her youthful appearance, it was easy to tell from her temperament that she was definitely an old woman who had lived for God knows how long. Furthermore, she did not hide the arrogance and harshness on her face. It was as if everyone had to lower their heads in front of her, including the president of the Alliance beside her. "Please, please." The corner of the president's mouth twitched slightly. After signaling the guards to make way, he hurriedly invited the woman to go first. In fact, he was also a very arrogant person, and in terms of strength, he was far above the other party. If it was not for the fact that he needed help from this Master Zong, he would not have been so humble. Perhaps he would have fallen out with her on the spot. The woman glanced arrogantly at the group of mountain opening stage giants, then walked through them with a high attitude. In her eyes, this group of mountain opening stage giants was probably a group of bodyguards. That kind of disdain and contempt was written clearly on her face. However, before she could maintain her noble demeanor to the end, when she caught a glimpse of the situation in front of her, she was instantly stunned. In the next moment, the woman rushed to the front of Chang Lighting like a gust of wind. She hugged the guy who smelled burnt and exclaimed, "Ting what's wrong with you? Ting wake up. Who did this?" When everyone saw this, they immediately understood the identity of this woman. Without a doubt, this woman was Chang Lighting's mother, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy, Zong Zili. Chapter 49-25. Everyone's eyes landed on Lin Yi, and Zong Zili reacted quickly. She glared at Lin Yi with murderous intent. "Was it you? Kid, do you want to die?" As soon as Zong Zili finished speaking, she was about to kill him. At this time, the The president suddenly stood in front of her and said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing, "Grandmaster Zong, please calm down. I will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation for this matter. However, if you make a move here, I'm afraid it's against the rules. This is the exclusive land of the Golden Division School Alliance. Only the Alliance can deal with this. No school or person is allowed to interfere, or the Alliance. Where does the authority of the Alliance will be?" Lin Yi nodded to himself as he listened. He didn't know this guild leader well, and didn't even know his name. He'd only heard him speak once before, but from what he'd said, he wasn't an unreasonable person. Compared to Zong Zili and the guard captain, he was at least a reasonable person. Me. Against the rules? Zong Zili glared at the guild master unhappily before turning back to Lin Yi with a murderous look. Breaking the rules, huh? What if I have to kill him today? This. The union president's expression changed slightly. If Zong Zili dared to speak to him like this under normal circumstances, he would have already turned hostile on the spot. But this time, the matter was too important. He could only swallow his anger and say, "Grandmaster Zong, I'll say it again. This is the exclusive territory of the Academic Union. Please do not make things difficult for me." Zong Zili gave him a long look and smiled coldly. "Very well then, the Alliance. The authority of the Alliance is not to be offended. If that's the case, I'll be taking my Ting to heal. Find someone else." With that, Zong Zili picked up the smoking Chang Lai Ting and got up to leave. Wait. The headmaster's face changed again and again. After a moment of consideration, he gritted his teeth. "Since it's your son who's injured, then this is Master Zong's family business. I don't care anymore." Xinyan and the others' hearts sank at the words, and they couldn't help but turn to Lin Yi worriedly. Even the head of the Alliance had chosen to back down in front of a woman like Zong Zili. Didn't that mean they were doomed? Very well, the headmaster is a sensible person. Zong Zili glanced at the Alliance leader with a smug expression before carefully putting down Chang Lai Ting. He turned to Lin Yi with a savage expression. "Kid, how dare you attack my Ting? You can die now." As he spoke, Zong Zili's entire body released a fierce and sharp aura. His strength was without a doubt. He was actually an early mountain opening stage magnet. Xinyan and the others jumped in fright. They'd just gotten out of the wolf's den and into the tiger's lair. It was a dangerous situation when they were blocked by the Alliance's guards, but these people were only here to capture Lin Yi. This Zong Zili, on the other hand, was trying to kill Lin Yi, and he was an early phase practitioner. If they'd fallen into the hands of the Alliance, at least Morningstar Academy would have intervened. At least their lives wouldn't be in danger, but this Zong Zili was obviously going to kill him to vent her anger. Lin Yi would be dead if he fell into her hands. But in contrast to the shocked Xinyan and the others, Lin Yi wasn't scared at all. In fact, he was even feeling a little excited as he looked at Zong Zili calmly. Zong Zili was an elixir refiner. Even when she fought, she had the aura of an elixir refiner. This meant that her combat ability was much weaker than a practitioner of the same level. Even if she was an early stage magnet, she was still the weakest of them all. After all, there was only one non-mainstream elixir refiner like Lin Yi who treated elixir refinement as a sideline. Most elixir refiners were synonymous with weak strength. Zhongliju, the legendary elixir god, was an exception. Unfortunately, this was Zong Zili, not Zhongliju. Before this, Lin Yi could only run away when facing a magnet of the Alliance, but now that he'd advanced to the early stage of the Alliance, he no longer had the fear of facing a magnet of the Alliance, especially when facing Zong Zili, who was the weakest of the Alliance. Lin Yi's heart was stirred. The Thousand Thunder explosion he just used to kill two mystical late-stage masters was something that even Zong Zili couldn't do. This opening period trash that popped up out of nowhere was a free sparring partner for Lin Yi, who'd had a huge increase in strength recently. Seeing that Lin Yi was still so calm and collected, everyone started discussing again. Even the Union's master revealed a surprised expression. He'd never looked Lin Yi in the eye before, but a mere early-stage magnet of the Alliance facing Zong Zili and still being so calm, this kid didn't look simple at all. Zong Zili's smile became even colder. She didn't care what kind of background and confidence Lin Yi had. She only knew that Lin Yi had beaten her precious son half to death. Just based on this, Lin Yi had to die. But before Zongzili could make a move, Lin Yi suddenly called out, "Wait. Mph, kid, it's too late for you to beg for mercy now. Since you hurt my Ting you have to pay the corresponding price, and that price is death." Zongzili said coldly. For this kind of unreasonable woman, Lin Yi didn't even have the interest to look at her, let alone waste his saliva talking nonsense with her. Instead, he turned to the union's master and said indifferently, "From what you're saying, the union's master doesn't plan to intervene, right?" "That's right. Although this is the territory of the Alliance of Academies, this is a private matter between you two. As the union's master, there's no need for me to intervene." The union's master paused for a moment, his eyes filled with regret and self-mockery. "Besides, Master Zong isn't a member of our alliance, but a distinguished guest that we specially invited to help refine pills. Since it's her family's matter, I won't interfere." Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present couldn't help but become a little strange. The Golden Alliance was an official power in the Golden Sea region, especially since this was the Thunderous Plain Island, a place exclusive to the Alliance. If it were anyone else, they would have been trampled by the guards until not even dregs remained. Zongzili was, after all, the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that she was the #1 alchemist in the Yellowstep Sea region. Her status was extraordinary, and even the Yellowstep Academy Alliance had to treat her with respect. She might need someone's help in the future, just like now. Chapter 49-26. He, I think you've misunderstood. Lin Yi smiled indifferently and continued to look at the Alliance leader. "What I mean is, even if I kill her here today, I don't have to take responsibility, right?" The Alliance leader was stunned and couldn't react for a moment. Everyone looked at each other. Although Lin Yi's words were easy to understand, facing a mountain opening stage giant like Zongzili, no matter how powerful he was, wasn't it a bit too much to say such words in public? Could it be that this person's brain was broken? Without waiting for the Alliance leader to speak, Zongzili laughed wildly as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He looked at Lin Yi mockingly and said, "Ha ha ha ha. No wonder you dared to attack my Ting. Your tone is shockingly arrogant. I can clearly tell you that if you are able to kill me today, nothing will happen to you. However, if you are unable to kill me, I will let you have a good taste of a fate worse than death." "Very good, I'm relieved to hear that," Lin Yi said as he stretched out his right arm. Electric arcs danced wildly on it, and his aura was released in an instant. "So you're a lightning element cultivator, no wonder you dare to be so arrogant." Seeing this, Zongzili's expression changed slightly. The thunder attribute was an extremely rare mutated spirit root attribute. Because of the special nature of the power of thunder and lightning, thunder attribute cultivators were synonymous with powerful and domineering almost at all times. Ordinary cultivators could not compete with them at all. If Lin Yi was not at the early stage of mysterious ascension, but at the profound ascension great perfection, Zongzili might have to take the initiative to retreat. Because she, who was the weakest mountain opening stage, had no chance of winning against a lightning element profound ascension great perfection expert. But now, he was just a profound ascension great perfection expert. The difference in strength was enough to crush everything. Then, let me experience the strength of a mountain opening stage giant today. As Lin Yi spoke, the electric arcs on his fingertips suddenly grew into a terrifying dark blue lightning pillar. It was the newly developed Thousand Thunder Explosion. In the blink of an eye, the Thousand Thunder Explosion smashed towards Zongzili at a speed beyond the limits of the naked eye. The distance between them was only a few feet. Basically, the moment the Thousand Thunder Explosion appeared, it had already hit Zongzili's face. However, Zongzili reacted in time. At the end of the day, she was still at the initial phase of the mountain. Even if she wasn't good at fighting, she was still a giant-level master. Zongzili's reaction speed wasn't something that the crowd around her, who were at most at the initial phase of the profound ascension realm, could compare to. Plus, she wasn't an idiot. After discovering that he was a lightning element practitioner, she was already on her guard. As everyone knew, the most troublesome thing about thunder element cultivators was not their super destructive power, but the extreme speed of their thunder and lightning. Basically, as soon as they attacked, The thunder and lightning would directly hit their opponent. Even the most basic evasion was an extravagant hope. In this case, when facing lightning element cultivators, it was necessary to make accurate predictions in advance, because no one could rely purely on temporary reactions to avoid lightning. Otherwise, no matter how strong they would only become a lightning target. Although Zongzili was not good at fighting, she was still a mountain opening stage giant after all. She still knew this most basic concept, so long before Lin Yi raised his hand, she had already reacted. In the face of the fierce thousand thunder explosion, Zongzili did not have the slightest intention of retreating. She was a mountain opening stage giant. How could she take the initiative to retreat in front of a mere profound ascending stage? Wouldn't that be a joke? Zongzili put her hands together, and before the thousand thunder explosion got close, she suddenly pushed out a super fireball. The color was not the common dark red or dark red, but extremely dazzling white. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion rang out. The thousand thunder explosion and the white fireball were actually evenly matched. The aftermath of the collision forcefully sent the surrounding nascent soul stage experts flying. Only the early profound ascension stage experts were still able to stabilize their bodies, but it was very difficult. White flames. Lin Yi couldn't help but frown when he saw this. This meant that the temperature of Zongzili's flame was far higher than his own alchemy fire. As expected of an early mountain opening stage alchemist. Even if he wasn't good at other things, when it came to playing with fire, an ordinary giant realm expert of the same level couldn't compare to Zongzili. As the temperature of the pill fire increased, its color would also constantly change. From the initial red, to orange, and then to gold. As for Zongzili's white fireball, its temperature was far above that of the gold, and its power was not to be underestimated. Looks like I've underestimated this woman. No matter what, she's still a mountain opening realm expert. If I'm not careful, I might die. Lin Yi's heart skipped a beat. Fortunately, his opponent wasn't good at fighting. If this white flame wasn't a normal fireball, but a strong fire element skill, his thousand thunder explosion wouldn't have been able to withstand it, and he would have been in big trouble. Lin Yi was secretly shocked. At this time, Zongzili was actually more shocked than him. This woman was not as arrogant and ignorant as she appeared to be. She was well aware of her own strength. The white fireball just now couldn't deal with masters of the same level, but it had always been successful in killing profound ascending stage experts. How could it be evenly matched with the opponent? Although it couldn't be seen on the surface, Zongzili suddenly panicked a little. As an alchemist, she didn't have any powerful martial skills, and her ability to adapt on the spot was even worse. The only thing she could rely on was the huge gap in strength to crush the opponent head-on. There was no other way. But if she couldn't crush the opponent, what could she do? Kid, you have some strength. If that's the case, then I can't let you go today. Zongzili's expression was cold and ruthless. The stronger the opponent was, the more she had to eliminate him. Now, he was only at the early profound ascending stage, and he could fight her head-on. Once he grew up in the future, it would be terrible. Is that so? Then I really have to open my eyes and see clearly. The so-called mountain opening stage giant is only SOSO. Lin Yi smiled coldly. As soon as his voice fell, his figure suddenly flashed, and he appeared in front of Zongzili in the blink of an eye like a ghost. After all, he was facing a mountain opening stage giant. This time, he did not hesitate to use the extreme butterfly subtle steps, just to catch him off guard. Zongzili originally wanted to say a few harsh words, but she quickly swallowed them back. She, a mountain opening stage giant, was actually shocked by the speed displayed by Lin Yi at the moment. Her first reaction was not to face the enemy head-on, but to retreat. Chapter 49-27. If it was any other early-stage mountain opening realm master, when faced with Lin Yi's sudden attack, they would definitely not retreat half a step. They would definitely use their absolute strength to suppress Lin Yi head-on and then slowly crush him to death. How could they retreat so easily and be thrown into confusion? However, Zongzili was not an idiot. After subconsciously retreating for a moment, she quickly reacted. Retreating like this would only increase the opponent's arrogance and make the opponent stronger. After a long time, she might really fail miserably. You're looking for death. Zongzili's palms once again condensed white flames. As she opened and closed them, they formed a long stream of fire. She wanted to take advantage of the situation and kill the approaching Lin Yi. Unfortunately, before she could make a move, Lin Yi had already flashed to the other side like a ghost. Ignoring absolute strength, in terms of battle awareness, even 100 Zongzili would not be Lin Yi's opponent. Her every move was within Lin Yi's expectations. Zongzili's attack missed and instantly revealed a small opening. However, Lin Yi did not take advantage of the situation to use the Thousand Thunder explosions. If he used the same move too many times, it would be easy for the opponent to figure it out. Moreover, it was rare for him to encounter such a weak early-stage mountain opening realm martial artist. Of course, he had to take advantage of this opportunity to test it out. In the past, Chang Lighting was simply too weak. At the very most, he was only able to test out the 4 elemental martial techniques before he could no longer hold on. Since his son was useless, then it was his mother's turn. She was a good opponent that had delivered herself to his doorstep. With a dragon's roar, Lin Yi's trump card, the killing aura of the 5 elements, finally showed itself. After all, the opponent was a giant of the opening mountain stage, and it'd be looking down on him if he used a 4-element skill. The killing aura of the 5 elements was just the beginning. Moreover, this was not a normal 5 elements killing aura. Zongzili didn't have much battle awareness, but he had good eyesight. He could tell with one look that this killing aura of the 5 elements wasn't something to be underestimated. Even if it didn't look as frightening as the 1,000 lightning explosions, it was definitely more profound than the 1,000 lightning explosions. Insignificant skill. Although he said so, Zongzili did not dare to be negligent in the slightest. He hurriedly sent a white fireball to meet the murderous aura of the 5 elements. When the two collided head-on, everyone thought that there would be a loud bang like at the beginning, but unexpectedly, Lin Yi's 5-element murderous aura did not even make a fart movement, and was directly crushed by the opponent's white fireball. From the start to the end, he did not even expend the slightest bit of energy, let alone fight on par with his opponent like he did with the 1,000 lightning burst earlier. Everyone in the surroundings couldn't help but be taken aback. After the 2 spectacular confrontations from before, they had subconsciously regarded Lin Yi as a tyrannical figure that could rival Zongzili. After all, from these 2 confrontations, he didn't seem to be at a disadvantage at all. Instead, he was leading Zongzili by the nose. But this time, the gap in strength between the 2 sides was immediately exposed. This merciless Bei Dao might barely be able to exchange 1 or 2 moves with Zongzili, but any more than that would be impossible. After all, he was only at the early stage of mysterious ascension. Ha 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 ha. I thought you were strong, but it turns out that you're just a good-looking but useless embroidered pillow. You're exhausted so quickly. I haven't even warmed up yet. Zongzili sneered proudly. However, what she didn't realize was that at this moment, the Alliance Master and the Alliance Guard team's mountain opening stage experts suddenly revealed a mocking expression when they heard her words. This woman still hasn't realized the danger until now? A dignified mountain opening stage giant is actually so slow, it's really sad to a certain extent. Hee, as you wish, now we can warm up to our heart's content. Lin Yi smiled faintly. What did you say? Only at this moment did Zongzili suddenly feel that something was wrong. Before she could react, hundreds of 5-element murderous auras suddenly appeared in all directions. Listening to the endless dragon roars, Zongzili's expression suddenly changed. It turned out that the 5-element murderous aura just now was not destroyed at all, it was purely a cover. It was ridiculous that she thought that this was the opponent's full strength. Let's begin, let me see how you warm up. Lin Yi calmly snapped his fingers, and the 5-element murderous auras surrounding Zongzili all launched attacks at the same time. The bystanders couldn't even see Zongzili's shadow, they could only see the densely packed 5-element murderous auras drowning her. The scene could be described as shocking. Zongzili instantly became flustered. Even if she temporarily condensed the strongest white flame, it could only lock onto a few of the 5-element murderous auras in an area. It was simply unrealistic to want to destroy all of the 5-element murderous auras in one go. What she could do now was to quickly open up a gap and then break out from it. Lin Yi didn't take the opportunity to attack again. It wasn't that he was intentionally going easy on her, it was mainly because the move just now had used up all the qi in his body. At this moment, he could only take the opportunity to use the jade pendant to quickly replenish his qi while carefully observing the situation in front of him, preparing for the next move. This is a phantom. After Zhong Zili fled for a moment, she finally realized that something was wrong. Not all of the 5-element murderous auras were real, most of them were just for show. A mere appearance actually deceived a mountain opening stage powerhouse like her. Zhong Zili immediately gritted her teeth in anger. She was clearly played by this kid in public. The leaders of the Alliance and the mountain opening stage powerhouses shook their heads again. Although this woman was an alchemist, it was understandable that her strength was weaker than the powerhouses of the same level. However, the combatability of a dignified mountain opening stage powerhouse was actually so poor, it really made people speechless. Most of them could see at a glance that 99% of the 5-element murderous auras in Lin Yi's move were just missed without any attack power. No matter how realistic the disguise was, if one's insight was strong enough, they would eventually be able to see through the flaws. What's more, even if they couldn't see through it at once, they could infer with the most basic logic. It was impossible for so many 5-element murderous auras to be real, because with the strength of the 5-element murderous auras, a normal early stage profound ascending stage powerhouse could only use 5 or 6 of them, but there were hundreds of them in front of them. Even if it was Zhong Zili, she would be played around by Lin Yi's simple move of the 5-element murderous aura. If it was any other mountain opening stage powerhouse present, it would be difficult for this move to have any effect at all. Chapter 49-28. Looking at Zhong Zili, whose aura was in a mess, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel pity. He unleashed the 5 elements killing aura again, not giving his opponent any chance to catch her breath. This time, it was still the 5 elements killing aura, but on top of that, Lin Yi added another attribute, the ice attribute. With that, the 5 elements, plus the 2 elements of ice and mist, was an unprecedented 7-element skill. This meant that other than the strongest element in his body, the lightning element, Lin Yi had successfully combined all the other elements into one. It was a miracle to be able to do this in such a short amount of time. Of course, this was also because he had the foundation of the 5 elements killing qi. He could easily merge the 5 elements together. After that, the mist and ice attributes were only a step further on this foundation. Imperceptibly, the difficulty was much lower. Otherwise, not to mention a 7-element martial skill, just combining a 5-element martial skill was already a headache. Mph, you're out of tricks already? You're using the same move again? Do you think I'm an idiot? Zhong Zili didn't notice the difference in the 5 elements killing aura this time and continued to mock Lin Yi shamelessly. Unsurprisingly, her stupid reaction, which had no self-awareness, was once again looked down upon mercilessly by the mountain opening stage masters of the Alliance. At this moment, everyone was thinking the same question. How could such a stupid woman have such high attainments in the Tao of alchemy? Could it be that her intelligence and wisdom were all concentrated on alchemy, and she was a complete idiot in other aspects? You really are an idiot. Lin Yi said what everyone was thinking. You. Zhong Zili gritted her teeth in anger, but it was a pity that she was once again surrounded by hundreds of murderous auras of the 5 elements. There was no way she could free her hands to deal with Lin Yi. Even if 99% of the murderous auras were harmless, she still had to be careful. If the murderous auras of the 5 elements took advantage of the chaos and locked onto her vitals, it would be a disaster. With the previous experience, Zhong Zili's response this time was much more relaxed. She first used the white fireball that she was best at to blast open the encirclement, and then she evaded and circled around. This was the dumbest way to deal with it, but it was not completely ineffective. Just from this point alone, using the same move a second time would be much less effective. It was a pity that Zhong Zili didn't realize that the 5 elements murderous aura haze this time carried the ice attribute. Of course, if any ice attribute martial skill was used alone, it would be completely suppressed by her white fireball. It would be almost impossible for it to have any effect. However, when the ice attribute merged with the killing intent of the 5 elements, this absolute suppression no longer existed. Instead, the ice attribute was able to display its effects when she continuously fought with it. This effect was the freezing effect. Although it couldn't completely freeze Zongzili, her speed was obviously slowed down, but that was enough. Zongzili quickly became flustered, and he was exhausted from dealing with them. When facing the encirclement and obstruction of over 100 strands of 5-element killing intent, various large and small flaws emerged one after another, and the scene could be said to be filled with danger. The spectators in the distance were all dumbfounded. A profound ascending stage expert actually bullied a mountain opening stage expert to such an extent. Was the script written wrong? Boom. Zongzili's weak combat accomplishment determined that she couldn't cope with this kind of predicament at all. The substantial killing intent of the 5 elements mixed in the fog finally took the opportunity to attack, hitting several vital parts of her body. Even if she was a mountain opening stage expert, she would be seriously injured by such an attack at once. Hearing this movement, everyone's heart jumped at the same time. Even if they saw everything clearly just now, they still felt incredible when they saw Zongzili being bombarded into the dust at this time. They looked at Lin Yi as if they were looking at a monster. This guy could even suppress a mountain opening stage expert. When did such a heaven-defying person appear in the North Island? However, Lin Yi's expression didn't show any sign of relaxing. Instead, his eyebrows tightened at this moment. Sure enough, just a moment later, Zongzili suddenly rushed out of the dust with a ferocious look. Her whole body was wrapped in a thin layer of white flame, and she madly rushed toward Lin Yi. Lin Yi shook his head secretly as he retreated. A mountain opening stage expert was really not easy to deal with. Even Zongzili, who was the weakest mountain opening stage expert without any combat awareness, was still not a trivial matter. The attack just now didn't seriously injure Zongzili. Seeing that she was unscathed at the moment and was wrapped in a layer of white flame, it could be inferred that it must be this thing that blocked the killing intent of the 5 elements. No matter how weak Zongzili was, at least she still had this life-saving trump card. Before this, from the beginning to the end, Lin Yi had been suppressing Zongzili in various ways, but from this moment on, the situation was suddenly completely reversed. On the contrary, Zongzili began to chase madly, and Lin Yi could only be chased by her. Fortunately, the extreme butterfly microstep was fast enough. Otherwise, the one who suffered a big loss at this time would be Lin Yi. At this point, the result was already obvious. 7-attribute martial arts was not enough to deal with Zongzili. It seemed that only 8-attribute martial arts was possible. Unfortunately, the thunder attribute in Lin Yi's body was too powerful. This certainly brought him great benefits, but at the same time, there was also a big drawback, which was that it increased the difficulty of fusing it with the other 7 attributes. If Lin Yi was given a month, with his comprehension, it was enough to figure out the strongest version of 8-attribute martial arts, which might be more than enough to deal with Zongzili. But how could he have this opportunity now? Let alone a month, Zongzili could not even give him the time of a stick of incense. In front of so many people, he was suppressed by a mere mysterious ascendant early stage expert. Zongzili, the mountain opening stage expert, had long lost his face. At this moment, he was completely furious. He desperately wanted to tear Lin Yi into pieces, otherwise it would be difficult to dispel the hatred in his heart. Mitch, boy, if you have any tricks, just use them. Why? Are you at your wit's end this time? Zongzili laughed coldly as he chased after Lin Yi. It doesn't matter how many tricks you have up your sleeves, the difference in strength is right here. You will die today, no one can save you. This time, Lin Yi did not answer. He just buried his head and fled everywhere, giving people the feeling that he was really at his wit's end, and the situation had become dangerous. Chapter 49-29. Huang Xiaotao's heart was burning with anxiety. She saw that Lin Yi's dodging was getting more and more difficult, and she couldn't help but want to help. She didn't care if the opponent was a master of the mountain opening stage or not, as long as they did harm to Lin Yi, they would be her mortal enemy. But Wang Xinyan quietly pulled her back, shook her head and whispered, "Watch carefully, we can't interfere in a battle of this level." But Huang Xiaodao understood this as well. They wouldn't be able to help Zongzili if they interfered with their current strength, and they might even drag Lin Yi down. Even so, they couldn't just stand by and watch, could they? Were they just going to watch Lin Yi fall into a hopeless situation like this? He never does things he's not confident in. Since he said that, it means that he won't lose, at least he won't be at a disadvantage. Let's open our eyes and watch. Wang Xinyan smiled and shook her head. She knew Lin Yi too well. If Lin Yi didn't have this confidence, he wouldn't have attacked Zong Zili just now. He would definitely think of a way to use the Morning Star Academy's name to solve this problem as much as possible. Really? Huang Xiaodao was still a little worried, but she didn't have any intention of interfering. Since Wang Xinyan trusted Lin Yi so much, she had no reason not to. While the two girls were talking, it was unknown whether it was because Zong Zili was getting faster and faster, or because Lin Yi was getting slower and slower, but the situation became more and more dangerous. Lin Yi narrowly avoided the white fireballs a few times, causing the surrounding people to exclaim. Everyone knew that this white fireball was not to be underestimated. Once touched by it, it wouldn't just be a problem of getting injured, the whole person might turn into ashes. Zong Zili was a mountain opening stage powerhouse after all, and this was not a joke. What's this kid doing? Others couldn't see it, but the leader of the alliance could clearly see that Lin Yi wasn't as passive as he seemed on the surface. He seemed to be preparing for something. He should be exhausted. After all, he's only at the early stage of the mysterious ascension realm. No matter how strong he is, the true qi in his body is a shortcoming that he can't overcome. The guard captain at the middle stage of the mountain opening realm frowned. The surrounding mountain opening stage giants also nodded. Today's battle was an eye-opener for them. They had never seen such a powerful early-stage mystical ascendant master. But even so, none of them were optimistic about Lin Yi's chances. To be honest, Lin Yi had used so many powerful moves in succession, but he still had the strength to dodge, which was already beyond their expectations. If it was an ordinary early-stage profound ascension expert, not to mention continuing to deal with Zong Zili, he would have long exhausted his qi and died of exhaustion. Maybe, but I have a feeling that this kid is not that simple. The Alliance Master shook his head thoughtfully. His strength was far above everyone else's, so he was naturally able to see things more thoroughly than everyone else. However, he really couldn't think of any backup plan that Lin Yi could have left behind. This was indeed illogical. Kid, you're about to die of exhaustion, right? Haha, I've just finished warming up. Today, I'll let you have a good taste of despair. I'll burn you into ashes bit by bit. Zong Zili laughed like a crazy woman. As she spoke, she finally found a flaw in Lin Yi. Two blazing white flames instantly stuck to Lin Yi, surrounding him from all directions. All of a sudden, all of his escape routes were blocked. Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions changed at the same time. They believed in Lin Yi, but the situation was too dangerous. The two girls almost wanted to attack at the same time. However, at this moment, Lin Yi, who was trapped in the middle of the white flames, smiled instead. There was no panic in his tone, and he still seemed calm and composed. That's such a coincidence. I've just finished warming up, so I can start to get serious. You're still so stubborn even when you're about to die. Die. Zong Zili didn't believe Lin Yi's bullshit at all. Under her control, the white flames pressed down on Lin Yi from all directions, drowning him in a sea of white flames. Lin Yi didn't even look at it. He suddenly raised his hands and shouted, "Thunder Burial! Thunder Burial!" Everyone present, including the Union Master, was shocked when they heard this name. They all looked at each other in confusion. The Thunder Burial was a specialty of Thunderous Plains Island. However, the sky was clear and boundless. Where was the slightest sign of a thunder burial? Ha 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 ha. Acting all mysterious and boasting shamelessly. You think someone like you can get a thunder burial? You're not that strong, but you sure know how to bluff. Zong Zili laughed coldly. However, before she could finish laughing, the originally cloudless sky suddenly surged with winds and clouds. Following that, a gigantic pillar of lightning that was comparable to the weight of 10 people came crashing down. The previous 1,000 thunder explosions was only dark blue, but this time, the gigantic pillar of lightning was shockingly tinged with a faint purple color. Zong Zili didn't even have a chance to react. She was hit on the spot. It was also a lightning-type killer move. If the previous 1,000 Thunderbolts explosion was said to be shocking, then the thunder burial that descended from the sky this time completely stunned everyone present. Even the Alliance leader and the mountain opening stage powerhouses were shocked and speechless for a long time. In front of the power of the thunder burial pillar, Zongzili's white flames didn't have the slightest resistance. Just the aftermath of the thunder burial easily flattened it. Even Lin Yi was sent flying. This is a thunder burial. After the guild leader regained his senses, his face instantly turned green. He had been watching the show from the sidelines. When he saw Zongzili being defeated by Lin Yi, he even felt secretly happy. After all, this woman was really annoying. If he didn't need her help, how could he, the guild leader, be so humble? But although he was secretly happy, the guild leader definitely couldn't let anything happen to Zongzili, especially under his watch. Otherwise, if Zongzili really fell, who would refine pills for him? Like everyone else, the guild leader still underestimated Lin Yi. Even if Lin Yi had the upper hand at the beginning and forced Zongzili into a panic, he still didn't think that Lin Yi could cause any substantial damage to Zongzili. No matter how difficult the process was, Zongzili would have the last laugh in the end. Chapter 49:30. In reality, before Lin Yi used the thunder burial, the situation was indeed within the president's expectations. That was why he could be so relaxed and not worry about the situation getting out of control. But at this moment, he was dumbfounded. He never would have thought that Lin Yi could actually activate the thunder burial. What was going on? Although thunder element cultivators were very rare, with his experience, it was not like he had never seen one before. In conclusion, they were indeed much stronger than ordinary cultivators. But activating the thunder burial? Was this something that a normal person could do? Not to mention a mere early-stage mysterious ascending realm cultivator, even a mountain opening stage cultivator who was mainly thunder element couldn't use such a heaven-defying method, right? There was still a glimmer of hope for those legendary thunder element spiritual beasts, but this brat was obviously a human cultivator. The president's eyesight was not so bad that he couldn't even differentiate between a human and a spiritual beast. As suspicious as he was, the guild leader still saw through some clues. He'd felt that something was wrong from the moment Lin Yi kept dodging, and now that he thought about it, it was clear that the kid was using the opportunity to store up a big move. Zongzili, that stupid woman, didn't know anything about it at all, and let the guy unleash that shocking lightning burial. After all, he was the strongest person present. What the president guessed was right. Lin Yi did indeed do this. This thunder burial was simply an upgraded version of the Thunder Thousand explosion. However, he used the profound meaning of the vital energy bomb and continuously condensed all the power of thunder in his body to form an ultimate move. One should know that what was hidden in Lin Yi's body was not only his own power of thunder. There was also the powerful electricity left by the purple lightning from the resentful spirit. In addition, Lin Yi's endless vital energy was transformed into the power of thunder. After combining the two, all of it poured out in the form of the vital energy bomb version of the Thunder Thousand explosion. The effect was astonishing. There was no other way. Facing a mountain opening stage cultivator like Zongzili, he had to use this almost extreme method. Otherwise, he could only make the opponent embarrassed like before, but not hurt her at all. Of course, if Zongzili had been replaced by other giants in the mountain opening stage, Lin Yi probably wouldn't even have the chance to use this ultimate move, let alone defeat his enemy with one move. Unlike the 1,000 Thunderbolt explosion from before, not only was Thunder Burial far more powerful than the 1,000 Thunderbolt explosion, but it also lasted much longer. After Zongzili was struck, his entire body was sucked into the air. He twitched and struggled madly, and there were even scalp-numbing howls of pain mixed in. Lin Yi nodded secretly. The life force of a mountain opening stage powerhouse was indeed strong. If it was a profound ascending stage powerhouse, even if it was a profound ascending great perfection stage powerhouse, they wouldn't even be able to withstand the ultimate move of Thunder Burial. They would probably be turned into ashes in the blink of an eye, but Zongzili could still show such suffering. At a time like this, suffering was also a form of strength, because those who were not strong enough would not even have the qualifications to endure suffering. At this moment, Lin Yi's eyelids suddenly twitched. He had been paying attention to the alliance leader in the distance. Although this guy said that he wouldn't intervene in the beginning, Lin Yi didn't believe such nonsense. Sure enough, the alliance leader finally couldn't hold back and made a move. However, he wasn't aiming at Lin Yi. Instead, he raised his hand, and a cyan arrow-like force forcefully split Thunder Burial in half. At the same time, the alliance leader's figure flashed. Others felt as if he hadn't moved at all, but there was one more person in his hand. It was Zhong Zili, who was hit by Thunder Burial. So strong. Lin Yi was secretly shocked by this scene. Rumor had it that the alliance leader was a master in the Earth opening stage, which was above the mountain opening stage. Now it seemed that it was true. Otherwise, if he was only in the mountain opening stage, even if he could deal with Thunder Burial, he wouldn't be able to do it so easily, right? But even so, the alliance leader still couldn't save Zhong Zili. At this time, this woman's body was emitting black smoke, and it was unknown whether she was dead or alive. It was exactly the same as the two unlucky Chancellor and Chang Liting. The whole audience was dead silent. Everyone was dumbfounded. If Lin Yi defeating two profound ascending late-stage masters was still within the scope of their understanding, then this scene had completely exceeded the limit of their understanding. A profound ascending early-stage master, crossing a whole realm to defeat a mountain opening stage magnet master. When did the world become so crazy? This was not only unbelievable, but it completely subverted common sense. Not to mention seeing it, they had never even heard of it. Speaking of which, the East Continent itself was a place where geniuses gathered. Geniuses who could challenge above their level were very rare in other Heaven Stage islands, but here, there were a lot of them. It was not uncommon for a profound ascending stage master to defeat a mountain opening stage magnet, but those were all well-known profound ascending great perfection stage masters. How could a mere profound ascending early stage do such a thing? Only Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaotao's expressions were relatively normal. Although they were worried for Lin Yi, they knew that fighting an enemy that was a whole level higher was nothing out of the ordinary for Lin Yi, even though it was shocking to others. But for Lin Yi, it was nothing out of the ordinary. Since he could do it in the past, now that he had become a profound ascending early stage master, defeating a mountain opening stage magnet was not strange at all. Looking at Zhong Zili, whose life and death were unknown, the alliance leader was dumbfounded for a moment. After a moment, his face became gloomy, and he looked at Lin Yi coldly. "Kid, what do you mean by this?" A suffocating pressure followed, and Lin Yi was even more certain of this person's strength. He was indeed not a mountain opening stage magnet, but an earth opening stage master. Nothing. Since she wants to deal with me, naturally, she has to be prepared to be dealt with by me. Lin Yi's expression didn't change at all as he looked at him calmly. Plus, as I said before, I even confirmed with the guild leader before I made my move. I asked if I would take responsibility if I killed her, and she said no. This is something that everyone can see. Could it be that the guild leader still wants to stand up for her? His words were reasonable, and the people who were watching from afar nodded. At the time, they thought that this guy was just bullshitting, but they didn't expect him to actually have the strength to kill Zhong Zili. What a freak. Although the North Island's overall strength wasn't that strong, it had produced quite a number of heaven-defying characters. Shanghai Tianhua, Zhong Liju, these were all famous characters in the East Continent, and it seemed that there would be another legend of the North Island from now on. Chapter 49-31. However, he really did need Zhong Zili's help. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been so submissive before. But now, Zhong Zili was emitting black smoke from his body. What should he do? No matter what, you were the one who started this. Now that so many people have been injured, and even Master Zhong is lying on the ground, you have to give me a reasonable explanation, the Union Master said in an unpredictable tone. That's right. This matter was really unexpected. 4 people had been knocked down by this kid, and all of them were from the Tripod City Academy. Chang Liting, the young master with a strong background, 2 late Mysterious Ascension Academy chancellors, and now Zhong Zili. This was a big mess. If he couldn't give an explanation, he might as well give up his position as the president of the Academy Alliance. He could ignore everything else, But he had to at least give a satisfactory explanation to the Tripod City Academy. After all, it was one of the most influential Golden Stage academies. Moreover, he had something to ask of them. Explanation? Lin Yi looked at the president without batting an eyelid, and asked with a deep meaning, I wonder what kind of explanation the president wants. You can't be thinking of using me as an apology, right? The guild master's heart skipped a beat. To be honest, the thought had popped up in his head for a moment, but he pushed it down immediately. While he had a favor to ask from Cauldron City, he wasn't stupid enough to offend Lin Yi. An early-stage mysterious ascending expert who could defeat a mountain opening stage giant, the significance of this was too great. There was no doubt that this kid's future was absolutely limitless. Not to mention becoming a mountain opening stage giant, even if he was on equal footing with him, the leader of the alliance, it would be a matter of course. If he offended Lin Yi today, unless he was ruthless enough to eliminate him completely, he would be making himself a great enemy for no reason. A great enemy who could possibly surpass him in the future. If it was just potential, it wouldn't be a big deal. The number of super geniuses who had died in his hands was at least 80. Nipping a threat in the bud was a common thing in the East Continent, so it wasn't enough to scare him. What the alliance leader was truly worried about was the other meaning. A genius like Lin Yi was definitely not someone that could be nurtured by ordinary forces. He must have an incomparably powerful background behind him. Perhaps it was one of the few who stood at the peak of the Yellow Class C region. This was the most frightening part. If he made a move against Lin Yi today, he might not even have to wait until tomorrow before a super powerhouse standing at the peak of the 5 Heaven Rank Islands came to have a heart-to-heart talk with him. He still wanted to live for a few hundred or 1,000 years. After some thought, the Alliance president finally suppressed this dangerous thought and asked, which academy are you from? Your academy's qualification to participate in the next path of the tyrant trial is revoke. Instead of making a move against Lin Yi himself, he would make a move against the academy behind him. This was the safest way he could think of. He could use it to fool the Tripod City Academy, and he wouldn't really offend Lin Yi. After all, he was the Alliance president. It was within his authority to make a move against any Yellow Class Academy, and no one else could criticize him. Lin Yi was slightly stunned when he heard this, but he immediately understood what the Alliance president was thinking. The corner of his mouth curved up slightly, and he said calmly, I'm sorry, I don't belong to any academy. I'm from the North Island. The North Island. The Alliance president was stunned. He didn't know what had happened before, so he naturally didn't know where Lin Yi came from. He blurted out in disbelief, Are you lying to me? Of course not. Lin Yi smiled faintly, and he suddenly walked forward, setting up a divine sense barrier that could prevent people from spying on them. The Alliance president saw this and knew that Lin Yi wanted to tell him something secretive, so he didn't stop him. Instead, he set up a stronger divine sense barrier as well. After all, Lin Yi's strength was clear for all to see, and his divine sense barrier might not be effective against the Alliance's opening stage masters. I'm Lin Yi, a disciple of the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island, and also the last disciple of the pill god Zhongliju. Lin Yi said faintly in a low voice. What? The Alliance president's face changed when he heard this. Lin Yi's words were earth-shattering news, and the shock it brought him was no less than when he defeated Zhongzili. No wonder he had to set up a divine sense barrier. One sentence brought out 2 legends of the North Island, and Lin Yi's words were indeed earth-shattering. Speaking of which, Shanghai Tianhua wasn't a big deal. Although this was a super master who had once dominated the East Continent, and the Alliance president's strength was far from being on par with him, he really wasn't afraid of Shanghai Tianhua. After all, this was the East Continent, and Shanghai Tianhua was far away in the North Island. There were rules among the top masters, and because of that, Shanghai Tianhua couldn't come to East Continent easily, and it was even more impossible for him to seek revenge for a disciple. But the latter part of Lin Yi's words made the Alliance president's heart skip a beat. Looking at the 5 sky-class islands, the pill god Zhongliju was a legend that could be counted with one's fingers, especially in the world of elixir refinement. This kind of influence and power was much stronger than the Shanghai Tianhua of the North Island. Plus, The Alliance president's biggest problem now was finding someone to concoct pills for him. Why did he have to lower his voice to Zongzili? Wasn't it because he wanted his help? One had to know that Zongzili was the only mystic-ranked first-level alchemist in the entire East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region. Although he had just broken through, a mystic-ranked alchemist was still a mystic-ranked alchemist. Just this point alone made Zongzili sit firmly on the position of the Yellow Steppe Sea region's #1 alchemist. No one could shake him. Let alone the Golden Class Sea region, even in the higher Mystic Class Sea region, there weren't many mystic first-level refiners. For a mystic refiner like Zongzili to appear in the Golden Class Sea region out of nowhere was something that had never happened before. Even the Golden Class School Alliance had to treat her with respect, and it was no wonder that she was so arrogant and condescending. The Alliance president had no choice but to ask her for help. After all, she was the only mystic first-level refiner here. Going to the Mystic Class C region to ask for help was much harder than asking Zongzili for help. He might be the Golden Class School Alliance president, and he could do whatever he wanted in the Golden Class C region, but once he went to the Mystic Class C region, there were many people stronger than him. It was impossible to ask for help from a mystic first-level refiner. Chapter 4932. It wasn't easy to invite Zongzili over, but Lin Yi turned him into this. It would be a lie to say that he wasn't pissed. If it weren't for his concerns, he would have killed 100 Lin Yis to vent his anger. But now, after hearing that Lin Yi claimed to be Zhongleju's disciple, the guild master's eyes lit up. "You're a refiner?" The guild master asked subconsciously. If Lin Yi didn't say that, he wouldn't have thought of it in this direction. After all, refiners were synonymous with weak strength. How could there be a refiner as strong as Lin Yi? Of all the refiners with this kind of strength, there was only Zhongleju. Perhaps even he couldn't compare to this Lin Yi. Killing a mountain opening early stage mystic ascension early stage, Zhongleju didn't have such a heaven-defying record back then. Mystic first level. Lin Yi was a master at lying. He didn't even bat an eyelid, calm and confident. The guild master had no choice but to believe him. "Are you serious? You're not lying to me?" The guild master was shocked. With such strength at such a young age, Lin Yi was definitely one of the top geniuses he had ever seen, but this guy claimed to be a mystic first-level refiner. This was heaven-defying. If it were anyone else who said this, the guild master would have sent them flying with a slap. Randomly meeting a mystic first-level refiner in the Golden Class waters. Did he think he was an idiot? But Lin Yi was different. Just the way he challenged Zongzili was enough to impress him. He didn't believe anyone else claiming to be a mystic first-level refiner, but since it came from Lin Yi, he really had to think about it. After all, this guy claimed to be Zhongleju's disciple. If this was true, then it wouldn't be strange if Lin Yi was a mystic first-level refiner. To be able to become Zhongleju's disciple meant that he had to be extremely talented. In terms of status, he was even higher than a normal disciple. If someone like this wasn't a mystic first-level refiner, then it would be a problem. Haha, with the guild master's intelligence, do you think I can fool you? Lin Yi gave him a compliment without a trace. Everyone liked to listen to compliments, and this powerful alliance leader was no exception. The Union Master's face softened a little, but he wouldn't believe Lin Yi's words just like that. He said he was a mystic level 1 refiner, and he said he was Zhongleju's last disciple. There wasn't even a single witness. Who knew if this kid was just trying to scare the Union Master? Who can prove it? The Guild Master asked. Here, you can go ask that chick. Lin Yi pointed at Enrich Sayue, who wasn't far away. At the same time, he was secretly happy. Since the Guild Master asked this, it meant that he had taken the bait. Lin Yi, of course, couldn't be considered a true mystic first-level refiner. He had never made a mystic first-level refiner before, but this didn't stop him from using this trick to bait the Guild Master. He wasn't just bluffing. After all, from a certain perspective, Lin Yi's skills were far above a normal 7th-level refiner. Otherwise, Qing Danzi wouldn't have begged him to be his disciple. It wasn't too much to pretend to be a mystic first-level refiner. The reason why he suddenly used this trick was because Lin Yi saw through the Guild Master's weakness. This guy didn't really care about Zongzili's life and death. He was so humble to Zongzili just now. It was obvious that he had something to ask of him. Combining their identities, it wasn't hard to deduce that the mystic first-level refiner was the best trick to deal with him. After all, he was the president of the union. If he was just looking for someone to help him with alchemy, he should have a lot of 7th-grade alchemists under his command. Only a profound-grade alchemist could make him humble like this. To put it bluntly, from the moment Lin Yi admitted his identity, it was a trap. He lured the guild master step by step, and now, he was only one step away from success. Scaring someone was a highly technical job. Not only did he have to be observant, but he also had to find the right solution to the problem. He also had to make use of the opponent's mentality to build momentum, making sure that his cover was flawless. Lin Yi was evidently very familiar with this. She should be in the same group as you? The guild master glanced at Enrich suspiciously. Since they were in the same group, then this woman's words didn't have any credibility. It was useless to ask. Witnesses can lie, but material evidence won't lie. Lin Yi smiled meaningfully. The guild master was stunned when he heard the words, and then he understood Lin Yi's meaning. He immediately raised his hand and pointed at Enrich and said, "You, come here." Because of the existence of the divine sense barrier, everyone around could only see the conversation between Lin Yi and the guild master, but they didn't know what they were talking about. Even if everyone was itching in their hearts, they wouldn't dare to pry. After all, there was not only Lin Yi, a ruthless person who could challenge higher realms, but there was also a supermaster like the guildmaster. If they made any small movements, it would be impossible to escape the guildmaster's eyes and ears. At that time, they wouldn't even know how they died. As a result, when everyone was itching in their hearts, the voice of the guildmaster suddenly came from inside, and everyone's eyes fell on Enrich. "Ah, me." Enrich was shocked when she saw the guild master pointing at her. She panicked and stuttered, Although I'm in cahoots with him, I didn't hit anyone. Don't arrest me, don't arrest me." Everyone listened and looked at Enrich in a daze, not knowing what to say for a moment. Although Lin Yi had long been used to this girl's magical thinking, at this time, he also had a speechless expression. What kind of thinking is this? If you really want to disassociate yourself, then don't say that you're in cahoots. In the end, you say that you're in cahoots, but at the same time, you say don't arrest me. Is this something a normal person can say? Lin Yi shook his head inwardly. It was fortunate that he'd managed to scare the Alliance's leader, otherwise the girl would have been dragged into the mess as well. That would have made him speechless. "I'm not going to arrest you. I just want to ask you a few questions." The guild master frowned. "If that's the case. Okay then, you said you won't arrest me," Enrich repeated worriedly, and then carefully walked to the side of the two. Chapter 49-33. Enrich subconsciously looked at Lin Yi, then shrunk her neck and replied, "My name is Enrich. I'm a disciple of Donghua Academy." "Okay, then tell me, is he a mystic level first-level alchemist?" The union leader asked directly. "He's a mystic level first-level alchemist." Enrich heard this and jumped up in shock. Luckily, there was a spiritual barrier around them, or else her voice would have been heard by the entire dock. "You don't know?" The union leader frowned and looked at Lin Yi. He thought that since this woman was on the same side, she would definitely nod without hesitation. Who would have thought that she would have this kind of reaction? "I don't know, he didn't tell me. I only know that he's an alchemist." Enrich thought for a moment, then added, "A very powerful alchemist." "Oh, how powerful?" The union leader's eyes lit up. He was able to refine 7 profound nurturing pills in less than half a day. Moreover, he only used 4 sets of ingredients. "Isn't he amazing?" Enrich face was filled with pride as she said. Lin Yi was speechless. This silly girl really didn't have any wariness at all. Was this something that she could casually tell others? Previously, she was harassed by Chang Liting and the others, and it was not wrong at all, but then again, he had already expected this. He had asked the union leader to ask Enrich for proof. If not, it would be hard for the other party to believe that he was a mystic level first-level alchemist. After all, there was no proof for this kind of thing. He had to have enough evidence. Really? The union leader was instantly excited. 4 sets of materials to make 7 qi cultivating pills, and in less than half a day. This was definitely not something a 7th-level alchemist could do. Once the truth of this matter could be verified, then there was no doubt that he was a mystic-level 1st-level alchemist. Of course it's true. I was the one who found the profound raising grass here. Here, these 3 profound raising pills were concocted by him. As Enrich spoke, she pulled out the 3 profound raising pills with an expression of fear that the other party would not believe her. Lin Yi was even more speechless. Although all of this was within his expectations, it was rare to see someone as forgetful as Enrich. Wasn't this silly girl afraid that the other party would be tempted by her wealth? But then again, Enrich was not really stupid. She was very careful when she took the profound raising pills. She deliberately used her body to block everyone's line of sight, only letting the union president see it. With the union president's strength and status, he naturally would not covet her trifling 3 profound raising pills. If she did not give them away, these pills would be completely useless to him. Looking at the 3 profound nurturing pellets in Enrich hands, the union leader sank into silence, unable to conceal the shock on his face. Of course, he knew that the path of a tycoon produced profound nurturing grass, and these 3 pellets were of high quality, full of pill fragrance. They did not seem like pellets that had been concocted for a long time, but rather recently. In other words, Enrich words could be trusted. In fact, from the moment Enrich introduced herself, it was impossible for her to lie, because this kind of lie could be easily exposed, and once it was exposed, the anger of the leader of the union was not something that a disciple of the early stage of the mysterious ascension realm could bear. After a moment of silence, the union leader's attitude suddenly changed. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. "Master Lin, let me reintroduce myself. I am the Golden Academy union leader, Zhuang Yifan. I was presumptuous just now, please forgive me, Master Lin." Lin Yi saw the change in Zhuang Yifan's expression clearly. He couldn't help but chuckle to himself. The big shots of the East Continent were much more snobbish than the big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands. The big shots of the other Heaven Rank Islands all had to respect themselves and put on airs no matter what they did. However, the people of the East Continent were different. Almost every one of them had the ability to change their expressions. Lin Yi was already used to it. As the president of the alliance, Zhuang Yifan had always held a high position and was full of arrogance. He didn't even bother to let the Yellow Step Academy students know his name during the trial. That kind of arrogance was practically carved into his bones. But now, he took the initiative to introduce himself with a smile. Coupled with his previous submissive attitude towards Zongzili, it could be seen that this person was also someone who knew when to submit and when to stand tall. His arrogance also depended on the person. "President Zhuang, you're exaggerating. From the beginning to the end, you didn't do anything inappropriate. If I were in your position, I would have made the same choice. So you don't have to worry about such a small matter." Lin Yi smiled faintly. Although it was a little arrogant to talk to Zhuang Yifan in this tone, he was now a mystic-level 1st-level alchemist. If he didn't act so pretentiously, the other party might even suspect something was wrong. As expected of Senior Shangguan and Master Zhong's brilliant disciple. Not only is Master Lin's strength extraordinary, but he also has such a rare temperament. You can be considered a role model for the young people of the East Continent. Zhuang Yifan smiled. He wasn't just flattering Lin Yi. He was truly impressed. One should know that the more talented one was, the more arrogant they were. He had seen his fair share of super geniuses. Although they were indeed outstanding, they all had their eyes on the top of their heads. Based on this point alone, Lin Yi, who knew when to advance and when to retreat, was at least 10 streets ahead of those super geniuses. "President Zhuang, you flatter me." Lin Yi smiled non-committally. He turned to look at Zongzili and the others who were lying unconscious on the side and said, "Then what do you plan to do about today's incident? Do you need me to give you another explanation?" "Hehe, Master Lin, you must be joking. They all brought this upon themselves. Zongzili also said that this was a private matter between you all. You kept saying that they died for nothing. I couldn't even persuade them to stop. This is obvious to all. Why would I need to do anything unnecessary? Zhuang Yifan was quick to turn hostile. Forget standing up for Zongzili, he would be lucky if he didn't step forward and kick her. Of course, this was also because Zongzili didn't know how to behave herself. She thought that because she was a mystic-level first-level alchemist, she could act all high and mighty just because Zhuang Yifan wanted something from her. Based on her previous behavior, anyone would be furious, not to mention Zhuang Yifan. Lin Yi smiled. This was expected. Zhuang Yifan waved his hand and said to the alliance guards beside him, "Send Master Zong and the others back to the Tripod City Academy's treasure ship. Although this is a private matter between them, it's not right to leave them lying here." Chapter 49-34. They didn't know what the two of them were whispering about. Seeing that Zhuang Yifan's attitude toward Zongzili's group had suddenly become so cold, they couldn't help but be astonished. However, they didn't dare to show any neglect on their faces and hurriedly carried Zongzili's group away. They were only responsible for sending them back to the Tripod City Academy's ship. They didn't care about anything else. They didn't even care if Zongzili and the others were dead or alive. Everyone knew that this was a hot potato and they would avoid it. Why would they care about other people's business? Master Lin, if you don't mind, why don't we go to the Alliance's division for a cup of tea? Let me be the host. From beginning to end, Zhuang Yifan didn't even look at Zongzili and the others. He was wholeheartedly trying to please Lin Yi. There's an Alliance division here? Lin Yi was slightly surprised. That's right. The headquarters of the Huang Grade College Alliance is located in Leidong City, but Leidong Plain Island is an important place for the Alliance. Naturally, there's a branch here as well. The conditions are not bad. Master Lin, you can go there to rest and relieve your fatigue, Zhuang Yifan introduced with a smile. Oh, I'll send the Morningstar Academy's disciples back first. I'll go back at night when I have time. Lin Yi nodded. Of course, I'll send you back. Zhuang Yifan hurried to please him. As the president of the Golden Rank Academy Alliance, it was hard for him to humble himself like this. However, there was no other way. Alchemists had such a high status. Especially Mystic Level 1 alchemists. Even in the Mystic Sea region, they were respected guests no matter where they went. Even Magnet Realm experts like them didn't dare to look down on these people. Most of the time, they had to be as careful as they were now. After all, there was no telling when they would have to beg the alchemist for help. All right. Lin Yi glanced at him with a smile that wasn't quite a smile, and didn't hold back. In fact, he couldn't be polite even if he wanted to. Even though Zhuang Yifan already believed that he was a Mystic Level 1 alchemist, it was obvious that he didn't trust him completely. Other than trying to please Lin Yi, Zhuang Yifan was probably afraid that Lin Yi would slip away halfway. If Lin Yi were to reject him, it would only make him suspicious. Little Ni, let's part ways here. We'll meet again in the future. Lin Yi turned around and bid farewell to Enite Sayue. Enite Sayue was still in a daze. She was stunned for a long time before she nodded her head. From the moment Lin Yi took care of the two unlucky chancellors, to when he went against the trend and overthrew Zongziji, and now she was inexplicably being complimented by Zhuang Yifan, the series of events today could be said to be a series of shocking twists and turns. Even now, she still hadn't fully recovered from it. Seeing this, Lin Yi chuckled and no longer paid attention to this silly girl. He extended his hand and called Wang Xinyan and the others over. Under the respectful gazes of the crowd, Zhuang Yifan personally escorted them back to the Morningstar Academy's treasured ship. At the same time, the treasured ship of the Morningstar Academy was in a mess. The commotion caused by Lin Yi and the others was too big. Not only did it attract the attention of many of the Academy's disciples, but the huge commotion caused by the thunder burial was even more earth-shattering, causing the surrounding sea to surge. If not for the huge tonnage of the treasured ship, it would have capsized long ago. Under these circumstances, if the people on the ship still didn't know that something had happened to Lin Yi and the others, they would definitely be deceiving themselves. It was just that the two places were too far apart, so they didn't know the specifics of the situation. They only knew that Lin Yi and the others were in huge trouble. At this moment, The leader of the chancellors was burning with anxiety. Although Lin Yi wasn't a disciple of the Morningstar Academy, his position in the academy was far more important than the other disciples. If he were to fall on the Thunder Plains Island, as the leader of the chancellors, he would really have to carry his head back. The heads of the academy would definitely not let him off easily. As for the chief alchemist, Qing Danzi, he would probably fight to the death with him. Fortunately, the news that they had received at this time only stopped at the point where the Alliance guards had captured Lin Yi. They still didn't know that Lin Yi and Zhong Zili, the head of the mountain opening stage, were going to fight to the death. Otherwise, the leader of the chancellors would probably faint from fear. There's no other way. The only thing we can do now is to quickly send a message to the heads of the academy. No matter what, we have to think of a way to redeem Master Lin. We can't let him be detained in this place. Otherwise, if something happens to him, I won't be able to be a chancellor anymore. The leader of the chancellors was anxious like an ant on a hot pan. He muttered as he paced around. On the other side of the ship, Bao Zuoliang and Su Kexing, who had returned long ago, were gloating. If it weren't for so many pairs of eyes on the ship, the two of them would have wanted to start a celebration banquet to celebrate. Ever since they went for wool and came home shorn on the path of a tycoon, these two had a belly full of bad luck. If it weren't for the fact that they had some self-awareness, they might have continued to try and get Lin Yi killed on the path of a tycoon, but that was just a fantasy. Even if Bao Zuoliang was impulsive, Su Kexing would definitely stop him. He had no choice but to stop him. He would be courting death if he went to the path of giants. But this time, the two of them didn't need to worry about it at all. Lin Yi, the arrogant pretentious guy, kicked an iron plate himself. After coming out, he actually dared to cause trouble in public. Even the Alliance guards were alarmed. Could it be that he would still have a good ending? Hihi, the Alliance guards are famous for being tyrannical and overbearing. Lin Yi, that kid, is also arrogant. Now that he has fallen into the hands of the Alliance guards, even if he doesn't die, he will lose a layer of skin. Bao Zuoliang lowered his voice and said excitedly, "In my opinion, it's not as simple as losing a layer of skin. Maybe this guy won't even be able to keep his life." Su Kexing sneered. "It can't be, right? Even the Alliance guards won't kill people casually. It can't be that exaggerated, right?" Although Bao Zuoliang wanted Lin Yi to die even in his dreams, he hadn't reached the point of deceiving himself. Originally, there wasn't. But this time, there definitely is. And I dare say that there is an 80 to 90% chance, Su Kexing said confidently. "Why is that? Tell me quickly." Bao Zuoliang's eyes suddenly lit up. "Young Master Bao, didn't you hear what those people said just now? The person Lin Yi provoked this time is not an ordinary person. It's Chang Lighting of Tripod City Academy. That's a famous person. Moreover, he even knocked out 2 chancellors of Tripod City Academy. Now that things have escalated to this point, it's already too late to resolve," Su Kexing analyzed. "But even so, he won't be killed directly, right?" Bao Zuoliang was a little stunned. Chapter 49-35. "That's right. Great, that's great. Lin Yi is dead for sure." Bao Zuoliang was so excited that he laughed heartily. Even if you beat them to death, they wouldn't have thought that the mountain opening stage magnet was already dead and had already become Lin Yi's stepping stone. Just as the two of them were rejoicing in Lin Yi's misfortune, their expressions suddenly froze at the same time. They were shocked to see that Lin Yi and the rest had actually returned unscathed, and there was no sign of the Alliance's guards. "What's going on?" Bao Zuoliang was dumbfounded. This was completely different from what he had expected. It's indeed a little strange, but we can confirm that Lin Yi has indeed committed a crime. Young Master Bao, look, even the president of the Alliance was alarmed, and he actually personally escorted him back. It's obvious how serious this matter is. Su Kexing immediately saw through the truth. "That's right, you're still the one who sees things clearly. You hit the nail on the head. I almost thought that he had escaped unscathed." Bao Zuoliang immediately heaved a sigh of relief. As the two of them spoke, the rest of the people on the boat also saw Lin Yi and the rest. Suddenly seeing Zhuang Yifan, the chancellor who was at his wits' end suddenly jumped in fright. Without caring about anything else, he immediately rushed off the boat to welcome them. "I am the Chancellor of the Morning Star Academy, Li Ren. I didn't know that President Zhuang would personally come, so I didn't welcome you. Please forgive me, President Zhuang." Li Ren respectfully greeted him. Although he was relieved to see that Lin Yi and the rest were unscathed, Zhuang Yifan's personal appearance still made his heart tremble. Because of the previous news, he and Bao Zuoliang had the same preconceived idea that Zhuang Yifan had personally escorted Lin Yi back. "Chancellor Li, you're exaggerating." Zhuang Yifan calmly waved his hand, not in the mood to talk to Li Ren. He was the dignified president of the alliance, while the other party was just a lowly chancellor. Both of them were far apart in terms of strength and status. He, Zhuang Yifan, could humble himself in front of mystic alchemists like Zongzili and Lin Yi, but in front of these people, he was the high and mighty leader of the Union, with an intimidating aura, full of authority. Under normal circumstances, Li Ren would not have dared to speak to Zhuang Yifan. However, he had no choice but to do so. He could only bite the bullet and apologize. "President Zhuang, Master Lin is an important guest of our Morning Star Academy. His participation in the Path of the Magnet was approved by the Alliance headquarters. Since he is not familiar with the rules of the Academy Alliance, I hope President Zhuang will forgive him if he has done anything wrong. Our Morning Star Academy will take full responsibility." "Shoulder all the responsibility?" Zhuang Yifan looked at him strangely. If Lin Yi wasn't a mystic rank 1 alchemist, he would have died 1,000 times over for what he had done. Even Zongzili was beaten to the point of death. How could a mere Morning Star Academy take full responsibility for this? Zongzili was the chief alchemist of the Tripod City Academy. He was the leader of the alchemists in the entire Yellow Class C region. Now that something had happened to her, even an idiot would know that the Tripod City Academy would not let this go easily. Although the Morning Star Academy was not weak, it was still lacking compared to the Tripod City Academy, which was the cradle of alchemists. If they really fought to the death, the Morning Star Academy would most likely collapse. Of course, the more likely scenario was that the Morning Star Academy realized that the situation wasn't looking good, and pushed Lin Yi out for the Tripod City Academy to vent their anger, abandoning the pawn to protect the rook. However, that was based on the premise that Lin Yi was only a student of an ordinary academy. Judging from Lin Yi's feat of going against the tide and defeating Zongzili, this assumption was obviously unreliable. Moreover, he was a mystic rank 1 alchemist. With such an important figure, the Morning Star Academy would probably fight to the bitter end, even if it meant perishing indiscriminately. After all, as long as Lin Yi matured, he would be a heavenly protective umbrella. If the Morning Star Academy could receive his full support, it wouldn't be impossible for the Yellow Class Academy to become a Mystic Class Academy in one fell swoop. As long as the Morning Star Academy's 3 magnates weren't stupid, they would definitely protect him at all costs. Therefore, Li Ren's statement of taking full responsibility wasn't out of line. Could it be that Master Lin has made a huge mess of things? Seeing Zhuang Yifan's strange gaze, Li Ren's heart skipped a beat. The difference in their levels was too big. If the other party really wanted to do something to Lin Yi, he wouldn't be able to stop him. A huge mess of things. You could say that. To others, it would indeed be a huge mess of things, but to Master Lin, it's too much of an exaggeration. At most, it's just a small inconvenience. Zhuang Yifan smiled reservedly. He had already given Lin Yi a lot of face by saying this much. It was impossible for him to explain any further. At least, Li Ren definitely didn't have that much face. Small inconvenience. Li Ren was stunned. This was completely different from the information he had just received. Those people had said that Lin Yi had killed 2 chancellors of the Cauldron City Academy. How could this be considered a small inconvenience? Zhuang Yifan had no interest in explaining to him. He turned to Lin Yi and smiled apologetically. "Master Lin, I won't disturb you on the ship. I don't think you welcome me." Although he said this, he didn't have any intention of leaving. His intentions were clear. Now that Zongzili, whom he had spent so much effort to invite, was dead or alive, if he allowed Lin Yi to slip away, then he would really be screwed. Compared to the Grand Alchemy plan, his reputation as the president of the Alliance was not worth mentioning. Lin Yi looked at the confused Li Ren, then looked at Zhuang Yifan, who was putting on an act. Lin Yi couldn't help but feel helpless. Since Zhuang Yifan was so thick-skinned, he couldn't just play dumb and let him go, could he? He was the guild leader of the alliance, after all, and that would be too much. Moreover, Zhuang Yifan was the president of the alliance. These Huang stage academies wouldn't even be able to invite him normally. If he was willing to board the Morning Star Academy's treasured ship, then it would be a great honor for the academy. This was a good opportunity to show off in front of all the other academies. President Zhuang, what are you saying? You're a distinguished guest that no one can invite. Since you're already here, why don't you board for a while? Otherwise, if word got out, wouldn't it damage the reputation of the Morning Star Academy? Outsiders would say that the Morning Star Academy doesn't know how to behave properly. I wouldn't dare let the Morning Star Academy take this kind of blame, Lin Yi said with a smile. Master Lin, it would be impolite of me to refuse. No matter what, I can't tarnish the reputation of the Master Lin, hehe. Zhuang Yifan immediately found Lin Yi to be even more pleasing to the eye. It was rare to see such a super genius. This kid's future was limitless. Chapter 49-36. Just as they were about to board the ship, a familiar female voice came from behind. Lin Yi, how are you? Are you okay? Lin Yi and the others turned around and saw Hua Yudi running over anxiously. She had heard the rumor on the ship just like Li Ren and the others, so she rushed over anxiously. Hua Yudi knew more details than Li Ren about the disturbance just now because there were people from Morning Pride Academy passing by. Not only did she hear that Lin Yi killed Chang Liting, the former fourth young master of Nascent Soul Stage, and 2 Chancellor of Cauldron City Academy in the late Profound Ascension Stage, but even Zong Zili, who was in the early Mountain Opening Stage, was beaten to a pulp by He. Regarding this, she was shocked and proud, but she was also frightened. Just killing the 3 people in front of her was already a big deal, and the worst thing was that Lin Yi actually killed Zong Zili, who was the only profound first-level alchemist in the Yellow Level C. Once the Academy Alliance dealt with this strictly, especially if the higher-ups of Cauldron City Academy came out to cause trouble, Lin Yi would be in big trouble this time. He might not even be able to keep his life, so how could Hua Yudi not come? Seeing Hua Yudi appear, Lin Yi couldn't help but feel happy and touched. But this time, it wasn't just Hua Yudi, there were 2 other people behind her, one was Liu Ziyu, the other was Ren Zhongyuan. When the incident happened, Liu Ziyu was still in her room, and was dragged out by the anxious Hua Yudi. After hearing about Lin Yi's matter on the way, she was also shocked. Her purpose for appearing here was very simple, and that was to find a way to plead for mercy for Lin Yi. No matter what, she had to at least save Lin Yi's life. Although Liu Ziyu knew that this might not be useful, she was after all a Mountain Opening Stage powerhouse, and the Deputy Dean of Morning Pride Academy. She believed that as long as she told Lin Yi's background, Zhuang Yifan would analyze the pros and cons, and even if he refused to reduce the matter to a small one, he should not put Lin Yi to death. Otherwise, he would offend both the North Island and West Island, and normal people would not do such a stupid thing. It wasn't strange for Liu Ziyu to appear here, but it wasn't Hua Yudi's intention for Ren Zhongyuan to come and join in the fun as well. This guy seemed to have a complicated expression on his face, but the corners of his lips were clearly showing delight at Lin Yi's misfortune. He wouldn't be Ren Zhongyuan if he didn't come and personally witness such a delightful event. Speaking of which, this guy was actually a talent. Ever since he was chased away by Lin Yi on the Path of Giants, he, Yi Xiaotian and the others spent a long time to finally find the Thunder Tribulation Point. But among all of them, he was the only one who successfully advanced to Profound Ascension, and it was very rare that he did not use the Thunder Shen pill. Although his father, Ren Tiansuo, was a 7th-grade alchemist, even the cleverest housewife could not cook without rice. No matter how strong one's alchemy ability was, it was useless without the Thunder Shen vine, it could not be conjured out of thin air. And rare elixirs like the Thunder Shen pill could not be bought except in large-scale auctions. Even if it appeared in large-scale auctions, the probability of it appearing was very low, and it was the same as the last Morning Star auction ceremony. Often, as soon as it appeared, it would be the rhythm of all the big shots desperately fighting for it. How could it be easy for Ren Zhongyuan to snatch the Thunder Shen pill from these people? However, The Thunder Xian pill was not necessary to advance to profound ascension. The Thunder Xian pill was only the first choice to deal with the Thunder Tribulation. For most people, the Thunder Xian pill was something that they could only hope for. They could only settle for the next best thing, like the 7th grade Great Recovery pill. Although this would greatly affect the fusion of the spiritual root, as long as they were strong enough and lucky enough, they still had a chance to advance to profound ascension. At the very least, they could save their lives. However, what Ren Zhongyuan used was not the 7th grade Great Recovery pill, but the top grade healing elixir, the longevity pill, which was refined from the longevity root. Its effect was much better than the 7th grade Great Recovery pill. The last time he went to West Island with Yi Xiaotian and the others, the main purpose was to collect the longevity root. Relying on the almost nature-defying healing effect of the longevity pill, Ren Zhongyuan forcibly survived the Thunder Tribulation and successfully advanced to profound ascension. This was already considered very powerful for ordinary people. At least, Yi Xiaotian and Yao Jiali, who had the same conditions, did not succeed in advancing. Until now, they were still lying in bed and had not recovered their vitality. Hehe, to think that you would have such a day. God has really opened his eyes. Ren Zhongyuan looked at Lin Yi, who was personally captured by Zhuang Yifan. Speaking of which, his success in advancing this time was largely due to Lin Yi. If he had not been tortured by Lin Yi's 5 elements murderous aura, his willpower would not have been so tempered. It would have been very difficult for him to grit his teeth and endure the attack of the Thunder Tribulation. In the end, it was very likely that he would have failed at the last step, just like Yi Xiaotian and the others. However, Ren Zhongyuan obviously would not be grateful to Lin Yi, unless his brain was really flooded with water. While Ren Zhongyuan was secretly feeling happy, Hu Yudi had already rushed forward regardless of everything. She stood in front of Lin Yi and said to Zhuang Yifan, Lin Yi was only defending himself. Moreover, it was those people from Tripod City Academy who threatened him first. The fault is not with Lin Yi, but with them. You can't take Lin Yi away. While arguing for what was right, Hu Yudi kept giving her master meaningful looks, indicating for Liu Ziyu to quickly speak up. However, Liu Ziyu did not speak immediately. Hu Yudi was confused due to her concern, but she could already tell that something was wrong with the situation. At the very least, Zhuang Yifan was clearly not here to cause trouble. Looking at their expressions, why did it seem more like they were here to visit? Mitch, go ahead and plead for him. This brat has caused such a commotion that even the president of the alliance has personally come to arrest him. What's the use of pleading? It will only make his death even more miserable and faster. Similarly, Ren Zhongyuan could not see the situation clearly. At this moment, he was already imagining the scene of Lin Yi being sliced into 1,000 pieces. Just thinking about it gave him great satisfaction. However, before Ren Zhongyuan could have a good time in his heart, Zhuang Yifan's first words caused his expression to change, and he almost choked to death. Master Lin, this is? Zhuang Yifan looked at Hu Yudi curiously. Although he did not say any blatant flattery, his expression and posture were clearly filled with indescribable respect. This was something that even an idiot could see. Lin. Master Lin. Ren Zhongyuan immediately fell to the ground with a thud. Zhuang Yifan was the president of the alliance, and he actually called this brat a master? Fuck. This brat beat Song Zili to the point where he didn't know if he was dead or alive. Shouldn't you hurry up and arrest him? How the hell are you the president of the alliance? Chapter 4937. Ren Zhongyuan wasn't the only one who was shocked. Hu Yudi was just as shocked. She looked at Lin Yi blankly, completely confused. This is my... Lin Yi paused, then winked at Hu Yudi and smiled. My girlfriend, Hu Yudi from the Morning Pride Academy. Girlfriend? What do you mean? Zhuang Yifan didn't understand the term, and he put on a look of understanding. Oh, a female friend, right? I didn't expect Master Lin to be so humorous, haha. He thought that Lin Yi was joking, so he played along and smiled. He didn't know that Lin Yi's words were like a public confession. Zhuang Yifan and the others didn't understand, but Hu Yudi did. She blushed and looked at Lin Yi tenderly. She wanted to say something, but then realized that the situation wasn't right. She quickly swallowed her girlish thoughts and looked at Zhuang Yifan. Wasn't this guild leader here to capture Lin Yi? Since everyone's here, why don't we all sit on the boat? Lin Yi extended the invitation with a smile, giving Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao a look at the same time. Hu Yudi and Liu Ziyu must be full of questions right now, and they needed someone to explain the whole story to them. Everyone nodded. Li Ren took the lead, Lin Yi in the middle, Zhuang Yifan purposely a step behind, and the others trailed behind. It was a lively scene. Bao Zuoliang and Su Kexing, who had stayed on the boat to watch the show, almost had their eyes fall out of their sockets. They were as depressed as Ren Zhongyuan. It was supposed to be a perfect scenario for Lin Yi's death, so how did things turn out like this? Even though they were depressed, it was clearly not their place to speak. Even Li Ren, the head chancellor, was trembling beside Zhuang Yifan, not to mention the academy disciples. They couldn't do anything other than greet Zhuang Yifan from afar. They didn't dare take a step closer, either, and could only watch as Li Ren invited Lin Yi and Zhuang Yifan into the guest room. Other than Liu Ziyu, only Lin Yi and the other girls had the right to follow. What the hell is going on? Didn't you say that Lin Yi was going to die? Why is he hooking up with the guild leader? Bao Zuoliang was furious. I don't know. Logically speaking, the president should be standing up for Cauldron City Academy. After all, there's no way Cauldron City Academy would let this go. Their position in the Golden Step Academy Alliance is very high. There's no way the president wouldn't give them face. Su Kexing's face was gloomy. It can't be that Lin Yi's face is bigger than Tripod City Academies, right? Bao Zuoliang suddenly scared himself. Maybe, it's possible. Kexing suddenly thought of Lin Yi's legendary identity as a mystic stage alchemist. There was no other explanation. Damn it. Let this brat escape a calamity again. Bao Zuoliang punched the ground in frustration. He had no choice but to hide in his room and drink his sorrows. If he did not drown his sorrows in alcohol, he was afraid that he would do something impulsive in front of the Alliance Master. That would be a joke. Everyone sat down in the guest room. After exchanging pleasantries for a long time, Lin Yi had no choice but to sit in the main seat. Zhuang Yifan was here for him. If he didn't sit in the main seat, was he supposed to let Li Ren sit? Li Ren wouldn't dare to take the seat even if he was beaten to death. I've seen at least 80 super geniuses, but it's the first time I've seen someone as amazing as Master Lin. The North Island really is a place where masters come from, Zhuang Yifan complimented as soon as he sat down. You're flattering me, Guild Leader Zhuang. Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't refute. After all, he couldn't say that the North Island was a weak place, could he? Plus, he'd claimed to be Shanghai Tianhua and Zhongliju's disciple, as well as a mystic stage 1 refiner. He had to act tough to the end. He couldn't just give up halfway. Otherwise, it'd be troublesome if Zhuang Yifan got suspicious. Haha, Master Lin, you're too humble. Forgive me for asking, but Master Lin, are you planning to stay in East Continent for a long time, or are you here to join the path of a tyrant? If you're interested in staying in East Continent for a long time, I have a good relationship with a few of the principals of the mystic schools. I'm sure they'll come to you no matter what. What do you think, Master Lin? Zhuang Yifan said, trying to please Lin Yi. The suggestion brightened everyone's eyes. For most of the students, the next thing they needed to think about after breaking through was how to get into the higher-level mystic schools. Not every mystic ascension stage master could get into a mystic school. It was extremely difficult, even more so than when they tried their best to get into the golden school. The reason was very simple. Although the number of profound ascending stage masters was much less than that of nascent soul stage masters, but at the same time, the cultivation resources that could be effective for profound ascending stage masters were much less, and the competition was much fiercer. Naturally, the quota for the Xuanjie Academy was much more precious. With Lin Yi's talent and strength, he wouldn't have to worry about not having a spot in the mystic schools. However, there was no guarantee of his position in the school. If he was just a normal disciple and not a core disciple, then it'd be a huge problem. But if Zhuang Yifan personally introduced him, then things would be different. A core disciple's identity would be unavoidable. This was much better than going to the mystic school selection alone. I appreciate your kindness, Headmaster Zhuang, but I don't have plans to stay in East Continent any longer. We'll talk about mystic schools in the future, Lin Yi rejected without hesitation. It wasn't that he didn't want to accept the favor, but he really didn't have any plans. It was the same reason why he didn't want to come to East Continent to join the Golden School. People like him could only improve faster by training outside. Joining a mystic school would restrict him, so he might as well go out on his own. Chapter 49:38. Then I'll thank President Zhuang in advance. By the way, President Zhuang wants me to refine pills, right? Lin Yi suddenly changed the topic. Zhuang Yifan was overjoyed. He had shamelessly pestered Lin Yi to refine pills, but he couldn't just ask right away. That was why he took such a big detour, wanting to show his kindness to Lin Yi first. This way, he could ask Lin Yi to help him refine pills. That's right, this is a bit presumptuous, I'm being rude. Zhuang Yifan nodded quickly. Oh. Then what pill does President Zhuang want to refine? Lin Yi asked. The pill that the other party wanted to refine was undoubtedly a profound level pill. Although he, a profound level 1 alchemist, was pulled out at the last minute to scare people, but he really wanted to take this opportunity to give it a try. After all, he could easily refine a 7th level pill, maybe he could also successfully refine a profound level pill. Then he would be a true mystic class alchemist in the future. This. Zhuang Yifan looked at the others awkwardly. It was obvious that he didn't want these unrelated outsiders to know about this. Dean Liu, it's rare for you to come to our Morningstar Academy's ship. Why don't I accompany you around? Li Ren suggested. All right, then I'll have to trouble Chancellor Li. Liu Ziyu nodded slightly, her expression a little strange. Seeing that Lin Yi was no longer in danger, she felt a little strange. After all, Morning Pride Academy and Morningstar Academy were archenemies. Why would she, the Vice Dean of Morning Pride Academy, come to their archenemy's ship? Previously, her mind was filled with how to plead for Lin Yi, and with Huo Yudi's urging, she didn't even think about it. Now that she thought about it, she felt a little uncomfortable. But since she was already here, it would be too petty of her to leave now. She could only bite the bullet and continue. Li Ren left with Liu Ziyu. Huo Yudi, Wang Xinyan, and Huang Xiaodao also tactfully followed. Now, only Lin Yi and Zhuang Yifan were left in the guest hall. President Zhuang, there are no outsiders now. Just tell me what pill you want me to refine. Lin Yi said immediately, but he was secretly surprised. It was just alchemy. Could it be that this guy had something he couldn't tell others? Did he have to ask everyone to leave? Master Lin, the pill I would like to ask you to refine is a mystic first-rank earth solid pill. Zhuang Yifan finally spoke. Earth-strengthening pill? What kind of pill is that? Lin Yi was stunned when he heard this. Although he often flipped through some books related to alchemy when he had nothing to do, the scope of his understanding was basically limited to yellow-level alchemy. His understanding of profound-level alchemy was almost a blank. Master Lin doesn't know about the earth-strengthening pill? Zhuang Yifan was even more surprised than Lin Yi. He suddenly had some doubts. A mystic first-rank alchemist didn't know about mystic first-rank alchemy. Could this guy be a con artist? However, he suppressed this thought as soon as it appeared. Judging from the qi-cultivating pill in Enrich Saiwa's hands, there was no doubt that this Lin Yi could easily refine yellow-level 7th-rank pills. His identity as a mystic first-rank alchemist should be credible. Forgive me for my ignorance, but I really haven't heard of it. Lin Yi shook his head very calmly, without a hint of guilt. Zhuang Yifan was even more certain now. It seemed like he really wasn't a con artist. Who said that mystic alchemists would definitely know about all mystic pills? Every profession had its own specialties. Even alchemists couldn't refine just any pill. They all had their strengths and weaknesses. Actually, it's no wonder that Master Lin doesn't know about it. This earth-strengthening pill is indeed very rare. After all, it's not usually used. Even the merchant guilds in the Mystic Sea region don't sell it. If it weren't for my injury, I wouldn't have paid attention to this pill. Zhuang Yifan nodded in understanding. President Zhuang is injured. Lin Yi was stunned again. Yes, To tell you the truth, I am an earth-opening expert, and in the late stage, Zhuang Yifan admitted. Lin Yi's eyelid twitched slightly. Although he had guessed it, he was still a little shocked to hear it from the other party. He didn't expect this person to be an earth-opening expert. But if he was so strong, how could he be injured? Could it be that there was someone even stronger than him in the yellow level C region? Seeing the confusion on Lin Yi's face, Zhuang Yifan smiled bitterly and shook his head. I wasn't injured because I fought with someone. I was impatient and forced myself to break through to the peak of the late stage. As a result, I failed and suffered a backlash. Although it doesn't look like I'm injured on the surface, it has already affected the foundation of my strength, causing my current strength to be unstable. That's why I need a earth strengthening pill. This is a pill specially used to consolidate the strength of an earth-opening expert. I see. Lin Yi nodded in understanding, then asked, so President Zhuang invited Zongzili here just for this? That woman is also a mystic level 1 alchemist. Yes, she is the only mystic level 1 alchemist in the yellow level C region, and she just advanced not long ago. Normally, you can't find mystic level 1 alchemists here, so they are all in the mystic level C region, Zhuang Yifan admitted. Okay, then show me the alchemy materials and the pill recipe. I will try it, there should be no problem. Lin Yi said immediately. Okay, I have the pill recipe with me, and the materials are in the Alliance branch. I will go and get them now. Zhuang Yifan nodded, and then disappeared in front of Lin Yi's eyes. After a while, he suddenly appeared in front of Lin Yi, holding a half-sized wooden box in his hand, which was filled with all kinds of precious elixirs. Lin Yi was secretly speechless. No wonder he was a big shot in the late stage of the earth opening. His speed was really unparalleled. This is the pill recipe for the earth consolidating pill. As for the materials, I have already gathered 3 sets. I wonder if I can succeed. Zhuang Yifan looked at Lin Yi eagerly. One could not blame him for being so impatient. He had already racked his brain over this matter. After all, this was different from those elixirs used to break through. It did not matter if it was earlier or later. But with Zhuang Yifan's current state, if he dragged it out for too long, it was very likely that something big would happen. It might even lead to a tragic decline in his strength. By that time, even if he could stabilize his realm, he would inevitably be unable to rise again. From then on, it would be difficult for him to advance even an inch, and it would probably be the end of his life. Chapter 49-39. If the 2 refinement methods were similar, then Lin Yi didn't have to worry. Since the upgraded Godly Armament Cauldron could easily refine a 7th level yellow level pill, then he could naturally try refining a 1st level mystic level pill as well. But if the 2 refinement methods were very different, then there was no need to even try. Even if he let his disciple Qing Danzi try, the success rate would probably be much higher than his master. In terms of pure alchemy ability, Qing Danzi was actually much better than Lin Yi. It was just that he didn't have a divine alchemy tool like the Godly Armament Cauldron. Zhuang Yifan didn't dare to disturb them. After a while, Lin Yi suddenly frowned and whispered, Metal, wood, and earth. What? Did Master Lin notice any problems? Zhuang Yifan's heart skipped a beat as he quickly asked. It's not that big of a problem. Lin Yi shook his head thoughtfully, but didn't continue the topic. Zhuang Yifan thought that Lin Yi didn't have the confidence to refine the earth-strengthening pill. He immediately smiled apologetically and comforted, the earth-strengthening pill is too uncommon. It doesn't matter if Master Lin fails. It's reasonable. If even Master Lin can't refine it, then it's hard for others. He was afraid that Lin Yi would think it was too difficult and change his mind at the last minute. After all, it was true that the earth-strengthening pill was very rare. Even the 1st-level mystic-level alchemists in the Mystic Sea region might not have the confidence to refine it. Because the demand for the earth-strengthening pill was too low, most alchemists had never refined it before, so no one could guarantee the success rate. For Zhuang Yifan, success or failure was actually secondary. The key was whether or not there was a 1st-level mystic-level alchemist willing to help. After all, as long as he started refining, even if he had never refined it before, there was still a chance of success. But if no one was willing to help, then there was no chance at all. With President Zhuang's words, I'm relieved. Hearing this, Lin Yi smiled non-committally. In fact, his exclamation just now didn't mean that he couldn't refine it, but he discovered a fundamental difference between Xian and Huang level pills in this pill recipe. As everyone knew, yellow class pills didn't have any special requirements for the alchemist's own spirit root. As long as the corresponding alchemist was an alchemist, they could refine it. But this profound grade pill was completely different. Not only did it have a higher requirement for the alchemist's alchemy ability, but each profound grade pill had different requirements. Just like this earth-solid pill, it not only required the most basic alchemy fire during the process of alchemy, but it also required true qi that corresponded to the properties of the ingredients. Metal, wood, and earth were all indispensable. Otherwise, no matter how high one's alchemy skills were, they would not be able to form the pill at the last step. Lin Yi nodded to himself. Compared to Huang-level pills, the process of refining a profound grade pill was obviously much more complicated. Also, because every pill had different requirements for the spirit root, there was a very difficult threshold. Most profound grade first-level alchemists would only be able to refine a few types of pills, and would be powerless to refine others that didn't match. In actuality, Lin Yi didn't know the whole picture. Although there were elemental requirements for mystic class elixirs, it wasn't an absolute requirement. In order to become a mystic class elixir refiner, one had to master an advanced technique unique to the refiner, and that was to simulate different elemental essences in the process of making elixirs. Because only in this way could the majority of profound level dans be concocted. Otherwise, if one were to rely purely on one's own spiritual root attribute, then more than half of the profound level dans would be lost. Take the solid earth pill for example, one must have metal, wood, earth and fire spiritual roots at the same time. Moreover, one must be a profound level alchemist. How many people in this world could you find? Only by mastering the high-level technique of simulating the basic true qi of various elements at the same time could one meet the requirements for most profound grade pills. Otherwise, it would be nonsense. This was a compulsory course for a profound grade alchemist. If one couldn't master this high-level technique, then one would never be able to become a profound grade alchemist. No matter how much experience one had, it would be useless. This was a natural chasm between a yellow grade alchemist and a profound grade alchemist. Many 7th level alchemists of the yellow grade could never cross this chasm in their entire lives. In fact, not only profound grade alchemists, many yellow grade alchemists also had a similar technique. Back then, Boss Bai had said that as long as one used the corresponding chant, one could achieve the effect of simulating Dan fire. For example, alchemists who didn't have a water spirit root could also simulate and catalyze a water Dan fire. However, this technique could only simulate a single element. It was impossible to simulate all the elements at the same time. The difference between the two was like the difference between heaven and earth. This was like how elementary school students could easily grasp numerical calculations, but would only be afraid of advanced mathematics. The two techniques seemed to be the same in essence, but in fact, there was a huge threshold that was hard to surpass. And if it was just simulating a single element, it obviously wouldn't be able to meet the requirements of refining a profound grade pill. Others could casually use several elements, so how could a single simulation deal with all of them? If others wanted to become a profound grade alchemist, they had to practice this compulsory course to perfection. However, Lin Yi was an exception. He hadn't even heard of this before, so naturally, he didn't know such a high-level technique. However, he didn't need to use this high-level technique at all, because he was a freak with 8 elements. He could naturally meet more than 90% of the requirements for refining a profound grade pill. This daunting threshold was like nothing to him. Although Zhuang Yifan was a great master in the late stage of earth opening, he wasn't an alchemist after all. Naturally, he didn't know the various tricks involved. Seeing Lin Yi's attitude, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. No matter what, it was good that Lin Yi agreed to help refine the pill. Regardless of whether this time is successful or not, I will thank Master Lin in advance. I have already ordered people to prepare a banquet to welcome Master Lin. As for refining the pill, there's no need to rush. Master Lin can rest for a while first. Although Zhuang Yifan was anxious, He didn't dare to rush Lin Yi. Instead, he acted very considerate. You just came out from the Path of Giants, and fought with Zong Zili and the others. I believe Master Lin is tired, right? Then I will trouble President Zhuang. I will go over tonight. Lin Yi smiled faintly. As for the latter question, he didn't mention it. If he really told the truth, he was afraid that he would provoke Zhuang Yifan. It was better to keep a low profile. Chapter 49-40. If that's the case, then I'll take my leave. Rest well, Master Lin, we'll meet again tonight. Zhuang Yifan said tactfully. He thought that Lin Yi was just worried about his image, and that was why he was putting up a front in front of him. If he didn't know what was good for him and left immediately, it would be troublesome if this young mystic first-level refiner were to die from exhaustion. All right, let's meet again tonight. Lin Yi stood up to see him off. However, before the two left the guest room, Zhuang Yifan suddenly stopped and said, every year after the Path of the Magnet, there will be a celebration banquet. Every school will send people to participate. I feel that there's no time like the present, so I might as well hold it together with tonight's banquet. What do you think, Master Lin? This is a matter for the school alliance. President Zhuang can arrange it, I have no objections. Lin Yi looked at him strangely. Was there a need to discuss something like this with an outsider? Then it's settled. Master Lin, you can ask Chancellor Li to come with you. Just tell him that I saved a seat for him at the main table. Zhuang Yifan smiled meaningfully before bidding farewell to Lin Fan. Haha, this Zhuang Yifan sure knows how to act. Lin Yi smiled as he watched Zhuang Yifan leave. It was obvious that Zhuang Yifan was going to do Morningstar Academy a favor for Lin Yi's sake. Otherwise, with so many Golden Division schools, Morningstar Academy might not be able to get a seat at the main table. This was a rare opportunity for them to show their face. After Zhuang Yifan left, Hu Yudi, Wang Xinyan, and Huang Xiaodao rushed in, followed by Liu Ziyu and Li Ren. How did it go? What did President Zhuang say? Hu Yudi asked impatiently. Even though she'd heard the whole story from Wang Xinyan, she was still worried for Lin Yi. Lin Yi was only using the title of a mystic first-level alchemist to scare Zhuang Yifan, but if he came back to his senses, the consequences would be unimaginable. Nothing much. He asked me to help him with alchemy and I agreed. It's that simple. Lin Yi shrugged as if nothing had happened. You agreed. What he wants to refine should be a profound tear pill. Can you really refine it? Hu Yudi was instantly taken aback. Liu Ziyu and Li Ren also revealed bewildered expressions when they heard this. Only Wang Xinyan and Huang Xiaodao remained calm. They were already used to it. Won't we know whether this is possible or not once we try? Lin Yi smiled slightly, with a hint of playfulness in the corner of his mouth. He said, even if it's a mystic-grade first-level alchemist, it's impossible to guarantee success every time. If I fail this time, it's also a very normal thing, right? I see. Only then did the crowd understand why Lin Yi dared to lie to a big shot like Zhuang Yifan. This was the key. If it was just a simple lie, it would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens to deceive Zhuang Yifan. Even if he managed to fool him in the beginning, he would definitely give himself away later on. Lin Yi's clever lie was not necessarily a lie. It could very well become reality, and even if it didn't become reality, there would still be a reasonable explanation. Only with half-truths and half-lies could one be undefeatable. Right, Zhuang Yifan said that he's holding a celebratory feast tonight. Chancellor Li, he also said that there's a place for you at the main table. Lin Yi said on behalf of Li Ren. What? Isn't the celebratory feast supposed to be held at the Thunderous City headquarters after the trial is over? Why is it suddenly brought forward? Li Ren didn't react for a moment. After a moment of daze, he stuttered, the main table, there's a place for me. That's right, that's exactly what he said. So prepare yourself, we'll go together tonight. Lin Yi nodded. This is really a big surprise. Li Ren took a deep breath and solemnly bowed to Lin Yi. Master Lin, on behalf of the Morningstar Academy, I thank you for your great kindness. Hehe, Chancellor Li, you're too kind. I've troubled the Morningstar Academy for so long, this is something I should do. Besides, even if you really want to thank someone, you should thank Zhuang Yifan. He was the one who suggested it. Lin Yi smiled and shook his head. No, if it weren't for you, President Zhuang wouldn't have taken such good care of our Morningstar Academy. Li Ren waved his hands and explained, Master Lin, you might not know this, but the celebratory feast every year is to celebrate the path to becoming a magnet, but it's actually related to the re-ranking of all the golden tier academies. The closer the academy is to the main table, the more attention they'll receive from the alliance in the future, and the more training resources they'll receive. In the past, only a few of the top golden grade academies were able to occupy a seat at the main table. They were all like the Lei Yidong Academy and the Tripod City Academy. Our Morningstar Academy has never received such an honor. Li Ren became more and more excited as he spoke, and by the end, his face was glowing. If he could represent the Morningstar Academy and occupy a seat at the main table, it would be entirely due to Lin Yi's efforts, but as the Chancellor leading the team, he would also have made a huge contribution. When he returned to the academy, he would be rewarded handsomely, and he would be promoted 3 ranks in a row. So there's such a thing. If that's the case, then Zhuang Yifan has really given us a big gift. Lin Yi suddenly understood. He'd thought that at most it would just be a meal and a show of his face. He didn't think that there would be such a deep meaning. Zhuang Yifan was indirectly showing that he had the ability to support the Morningstar Academy. Of course, the prerequisite was that Lin Yi had to help him concoct the pills. Otherwise, he could easily crush the Morningstar Academy. Ever since President Zhuang took over the leadership of the Golden Tier Academy Alliance, he's always been balanced. He rarely takes the initiative to support a certain academy. For your academy to be able to gain his favor, it's only a matter of time before you can stand shoulder to shoulder with those top academies. It's truly a cause for celebration. Liu Ziyu said with a smile, but her expression was a little complicated. This was a good thing for both fame and fortune. For the Morningstar Academy, it was naturally a joyous occasion, but for her Morning Pride Academy, it wasn't so good. Their archenemy had suddenly skyrocketed, and anyone standing in the Morning Pride Academy's position would probably not be able to laugh. Congratulations to you too. Li Ren was still immersed in his ecstasy, and only reacted after he subconsciously finished speaking. His expression immediately became extremely awkward. The other party was the vice principal of the Morning Pride Academy. Congratulations my ass. For a moment, the atmosphere in the guest hall became a little strange. As a guest, Liu Ziyu had mixed feelings, and as the host, Li Ren also had an embarrassed expression, not knowing what to say. The scene immediately fell into a deadlock. Chapter 49-41. Feel free to speak your mind. Liu Ziyu was slightly taken aback. According to Hua Yudi's relationship, Lin Yi should have called her Aunt Liu more cordially, but now he suddenly called her Dean Liu. This was most likely a major matter concerning the 2 academies. Master Lin, please speak. Li Ren was also a little puzzled. In my opinion, since Chen Jiao and Chen Xing are originally one body, and there is no irreconcilable hatred between the 2, why don't I ask President Zhuang to come forward and be the peacemaker, and the 2 academies will shake hands and make peace. What do you 2 think? Lin Yi said seriously. Liu Ziyu was silent for a moment, and quickly understood Lin Yi's intentions. His desire to resolve the grudges between the 2 was actually just a pretense, and his true goal was to let Chen Jiao Academy take advantage of the situation. If he came forward to speak about this matter, then Zhuang Yifan would not be biased and only help Chen Xing, and Chen Jiao Academy would definitely be able to gain a place in the alliance. Whether it was Chen Xing or Chen Jiao, the foundations of the academies were not bad. Back then, before they had split, they were the top academies in the Huang Class C region. It was only because they had split up that they suffered a great loss. But even so, the strength of the 2 academies could still squeeze into the ranks of the top academies. If they could really shake hands and make peace in the future, with the full support of Zhuang Yifan, the president of the alliance, it would not be difficult to restore their former glory. At that time, Lei Yidong Academy and Cauldron City Academy would have to stand aside. I have no problem on my side. Liu Ziyu nodded without hesitation. Although many of the higher-ups of Chen Jiao Academy were still brooding over what happened back then, those who could reach this step were all people who knew how to adapt to circumstances. In the face of real benefits, no one would hold on to this little grudge, or else they would be the sinners of Chenjiao Academy. Then Chancellor Li, what do you think? Lin Yi turned to look at Li Ren. This. Li Ren looked at Lin Yi in a difficult position, then looked at Liu Ziyu. He smiled bitterly and said, the two academies working together will benefit both sides, so of course I'm 100% in favor of it. However, this matter is of great importance, and I'm afraid it's not something a mere chancellor like me can decide on. At the very least, I have to ask for Headmaster Ling's permission. I hope that Master Lin and Headmaster Liu can forgive me. Logically speaking, this matter should be done as Chancellor Li suggested and let Dean Ling personally make the decision. However, this opportunity cannot be missed. If we miss it, it will not be easy to get Zhuang Yifan to help us in the future. Lin Yi muttered to himself for a moment, then decided, how about this, I will overstep my authority and make the decision for the Morningstar Academy. Dean Ling is a righteous person, I believe he will not object. Thank you, Master Lin. Li Ren immediately agreed. As a mere chancellor, he did not have the right to decide on such an important matter that concerned the future of the academy, but Lin Yi was different. With his relationship with the Morningstar Academy's three magnates, as well as his various powerful backgrounds, even if Ling Yuanqing knew, he would not blame him. Instead, he would only be grateful. In reality, forget about Lin Yi, even if it was his cheap disciple, Qing Danzi, who made the decision on the spot, Ling Yuanqing would not blame him. After all, he was the pillar of the academy. Moreover, this matter did not bring any harm to the Morningstar Academy, so only a fool would object. Since that's the case, then I'll go and refine the pills first. We can all go together during the banquet. Lin Yi said to the crowd, then stood up and carried the box of precious elixirs that Zhuang Yifan had brought and left, leaving the crowd to continue drinking tea and chatting. The two academies shaking hands and making peace was a huge matter that involved many aspects. Liu Ziyu and Li Ren had to first discuss and come up with a draft. As for Hu Yudi, Wang Xinyan, and Huang Xiaodao, they had long since slipped away to have a private conversation. There were always endless topics between women, especially when they had Lin Yi in common. Arriving at the special alchemy room on the treasured ship, Lin Yi only adjusted his state of mind slightly, then impatiently started trying. This was his first time refining a mystic-grade elixir, so he was somewhat perturbed and nervous. However, after taking out the godly pesticide cauldron and installing the alchemy equipment sent by Han Jingjing, Lin Yi's state of mind immediately calmed down. Being as calm as an ancient well was the minimum requirement for alchemy. If his state of mind was not calm, then there was no need to even open the furnace, since the chances of success were zero. This alchemy was different from the past. In the past, Lin Yi only needed to follow the instructions on the tablet and continuously input the corresponding strength of qi. However, this time, there was an additional step, and that was to control the attribute of qi. The solid earth pill only required metal, wood, and earth attribute qi. If Lin Yi were to bring in 8 attributes at once, then even if he was lucky enough to succeed, the final product would not be the authentic solid earth pill. This step itself was not difficult. For those real mystic-grade alchemists, the difficulty of this step was how to perfectly simulate the other attributes of qi. However, Lin Yi did not have this problem at all. He only needed to control the 3 attributes of qi, and everything else was a fool's operation. Everything seemed to be going very smoothly. Lin Yi did not feel the difficulty of refining a mystic-grade elixir at all. From beginning to end, he seemed to be able to do it with ease, but in the end, when he opened the godly pesticide cauldron, there was only a pile of residue inside. Failed. This result was not unexpected. Lin Yi had been mentally prepared for this, so he only used 1 set of materials this time, but the problem was that with his alchemy experience, he did not know where he failed at all. Fortunately, there was an alchemy artifact peripheral. After experiencing the first failure, the computer began to automatically correct the alchemy curve just now. At first glance, the new alchemy curve seemed to be the same as the original, but if you looked closely, you would find that many details had been fine-tuned. For these fine-tuning made by the computer, Lin Yi had a completely incomprehensible expression. After all, he was not a serious mystic-grade alchemist who rushed up step by step. He could not understand why these fine-tuning appeared, let alone what effect such fine-tuning would have. However, Lin Yi did not need to fully understand it. He only needed to input qi according to the computer's instructions. As long as there was no deviation in this point, everything else was the business of the godly pesticide cauldron. He could not intervene at all. In theory, the godly pesticide cauldron with the peripherals was actually an omnipotent alchemy artifact, because even if it failed the first time, it could be continuously optimized by adjusting the alchemy curve. If the second time failed, there would be a third time, and if the third time failed, there would be a fourth time, until the alchemy finally succeeded. Chapter 49-42. Zhuang Yifan was the president of the Golden Rank Academy Alliance and a great master in the late stage of the Earth-opening realm. Even so, he only managed to gather 30% of the materials. The godly armament cauldron could be used 10,000 times, but the materials were only enough for 3 tries. This was the reality. If he couldn't succeed after 3 tries, it would be equivalent to declaring the alchemy a failure. Because Zhuang Yifan provided a little more materials, Lin Yi had a little more than 2 sets left. He didn't dare to put all of them in at once. Even if the alchemy curve had been adjusted, no one knew if it would succeed before the second result came out. If he needed to make further adjustments, and he was stupid enough to throw in all the materials at once, it would be a joke. Lin Yi thought about it and put in half of the materials in his hand. Then, he struck while the iron was hot and began the second attempt. The success or failure didn't have much to do with him. It all depended on the godly armament cauldron. This time, the alchemy process was obviously more complicated than the first time. There were a few strange sounds from time to time. Every time a sound was made, Lin Yi's heart sank a little. This was the rhythm of failure. However, when he finally opened the godly armament cauldron, he was stunned. There were 2 yellow pills lying inside. Without a doubt, they were the earth-solidifying pills. It turned out that the strange sounds weren't a sign of failure. It was the legendary saying that the road to happiness is strewn with setbacks. Han Jingjing's alchemy artifact was really amazing. It could even produce a mystic class first-level pill. It was even able to overproduce as usual. How could those high and mighty mystic class alchemists endure this? Lin Yi couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief as he held the 2 solid earth pills in his hand. He'd be able to explain things to Zhuang Yifan now, and there wouldn't be any more unforeseen accidents. If he'd really failed, Zhuang Yifan might have gotten angry out of humiliation and done something unfavorable to him, and that'd be troublesome. While Lin Yi was refining, Bao Zuoliang and Su Kusheng sneaked off the treasure ship while no one was paying attention. "Young Master Bao, are you sure you can borrow a flying spirit beast here?" Su Kusheng asked as he followed behind Bao Zuoliang. "Of course, it's just a flying spirit beast. How could I not be able to borrow it?" Bao Zuoliang rolled his eyes at him. "But this is the thunderous plain island. It is desolate and uninhabited, and there are no academies or main cities. Where are we going to rent a flying spirit beast?" Su Kusheng asked in astonishment. "Who said anything about renting it? Why don't you just ask to borrow it from them? Don't forget that there's a branch of the Alliance here, and my father happens to know one of the higher-ups of the Alliance stationed here. As long as I ask, borrowing a flying spirit beast is a small matter," Bao Zuoliang said proudly. "So that's how it is. As long as we can borrow a flying spirit beast, our plan will be half successful." Su Kusheng's eyes lit up as he nodded. "All right, you didn't dare to say it on the boat because you were afraid that the walls might have ears. Now, you don't have to keep me guessing anymore. Tell me what the plan is." Bao Zuoliang couldn't wait to ask. "Young Master Bao, with our current strength, what do you think our chances of winning against Lin Fan are?" Su Kusheng asked instead of answering. "This." Bao Zuoliang's expression turned ugly as he said bitterly, "Lin Fan has already made a name for himself. He can challenge mountain opening stage giants by himself. Now, even Zhuang Yifan is on his side. The possibility of us killing him with just the 2 of us is not high. It's not just not high. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't even have the chance." Su Kusheng mercilessly shattered Bao Zuoliang's last bit of fantasy and said with certainty, "Young Master Bao, don't think that I'm trying to boost the morale of others and diminish our own. To be honest, We are no longer on the same level as Lin Fan. Even your father might not be able to do anything to Lin Fan. He might even be the one to blame. Even Zhuang Yifan, the head of the alliance, was on Lin Yi's side. Bao Zuoliang's father was just an ordinary city lord. He was nothing compared to Zhuang Yifan. How could he win against Lin Yi? Bao Zuoliang didn't say anything. Even if Su Kexing didn't say it, he would have guessed it himself. He didn't want to accept it, but he had to bow his head in the face of this cruel reality. If he did something stupid, not only would he not be able to defeat Lin Yi, but he'd also get himself into trouble. Then what do you think we should do? Just give up like this? Bao Zuoliang said with a frown. He was still lusting after Wang Xinyan, and the feeling of being obsessed with her wasn't something any other girl could compare to. If he were to let her go now, he'd probably never be able to accept it. Plus, he'd lost to Lin Yi a few times before. It was a great humiliation to him. How could he just let it go like this? In fact, putting aside personal preferences and considering the pros and cons, stopping here is actually the best choice. Su Kexing sighed. He glanced at Bao Zuoliang's gloomy expression and said, "But I think young Master Bao will definitely not agree to it. In fact, even I don't want to admit defeat so easily. Otherwise, I wouldn't have suggested sneaking out. Alright, that's enough bullshit. Let's get down to business. You asked me to sneak out and borrow a flying spirit beast. What are you planning?" Bao Zuoliang asked. The best choice Su Kexing had mentioned wasn't even within his scope of consideration. "My plan is simple. Let's go to Ding City now," Su Kexing said with a smile. "Ding City? Why are we going there?" Bao Zuoliang paused, then reacted. "You're not going to complain to the Ghost of Death, are you?" "That's right. I'm going to complain to him." Su Kexing nodded. The Ghost of Death they were talking about was Chang Leiting's father, Zong Zili's man. He was the mayor of Ding City, Chang Mingui. The Ghost of Death was a nickname that was very appropriate for this big boss of Ding City. Not only did it have the same sound as his name, but he was also a vengeful person who would pay with his life for the slightest offense. Countless people had died at his hands over small matters, and that was why he was called the Ghost of Death.